have found one of those structures that was burning that we saw from Air 7.
Yeah, that's right. So we have a structure fire burning. This is just slightly north of where we were before. We saw a helicopter come by and drop some water on this just a moment ago. I've been trying to find out what this structure is, and it looks like it could be some sort of power plant. We have some really heavy looking equipment on the other side of this, but as you can see, this building here is fully engulfed. It is spitting out some really heavy black smoke that is traveling for hundreds of feet at this point, and there's still a lot of these little brush fires happening just in front of this structure. But as you can see, completely out of hand, just a roaring inferno right now. I can even see some blue flames a little bit inside the building. So blue flames, that's the hottest part of the fire that's burning right now. We saw a helicopter drop maybe less than about 5 minutes ago. Didn't seem like it really did anything. And that's not to say there was a direct hit. The firefighter did a great job. It's just this fire is just really out of control. So they're going to need to put some more resources on it. Maybe just about 5 to 10 feet away from this position is a power pole with about 3 really heavy looking transformers. So of course we wouldn't want that to go up into smoke. We saw a few things inside of that structure explode, and then that actually sent a few more embers into the air. It looks like it's even picking up just a little bit right now as well. But this is really quite a terrifying scene. A lot of those hand crews that I was talking about during my last hit have made their way up the road just a little bit. We can see some of their white flashing lights as they're walking around. None of them are over by this structure fire. Right now, that building completely engulfed. At least to me, it looks like it's some sort of a trailer on fire. That's what it looks. It's hard to tell right now. It looks like it could be a trailer on fire. There's some really heavy machinery over here in the area, but it is pouring out that black smoke right now, and it is really. And we hear some popping noises coming from inside that structure, so it's pretty terrifying right now. We'll be sure to continue to monitor the situation. Let's go back to you, Philip and Leslie.
Okay, at least they're doing some water drops there. You'll continue to monitor that. Thank you very much for that, Alex. And it is 4:30 right now, and we have been on the air for about an hour now for a special edition of Eyewitness News. We're continuing to track the tick fire, which is burning out of control in Santa Clarita. That fire has burned nearly 4,000 acres and is 5% contained.
Overnight, the fire did jump the 14 freeway, which is shut down right now in both directions between Golden Valley and Escondido Canyon. We also saw them. Scott Reif showed us they closed Soledad Canyon as well. They need that as a fire break. At least 6 homes were burned during the fire yesterday. This morning, we've seen at least 1 consumed by fire, 1 heavily damaged by fire.
Yeah, and thousands of people are being evacuated, and new evacuations were ordered this morning. Dozens of schools are also closed because of the smoke and the extreme fire danger, with a red flag warning still in place. Let's go to John Gregory. Started off with John Gregory. He is live in the Sequoia Arches neighborhood. John.
Yeah, Leslie, we're back down to that home where the embers got into the walls, and you can see firefighters are still here, still trying to dig out those hot spots. It really is a tedious job. It's almost like a detective's job, trying to find out exactly where it's still burning. And they've already gone through this first floor on the wall. They sprayed it down with a lot of water. At some point, they got up into the second floor and sprayed that and pulled the facade off there as well. And now it looks like they're working on the side here. It just gives you a sense of how difficult it is once these embers get in these homes. They get under those eaves and they just start to smolder and spread, and then firefighters have to go in and bit by bit. There you can see some embers coming out. So they found another hot spot there, and boy, this is like the 3rd spot on this house where they've had some flame like this, and now of course they'll hit it with some water. But yeah, it just gives you a sense of the frustration and how difficult it is once these homes start to go, how hard it is to get in there and make sure you get every bit of it out. And boy, they've been at it, I want to say, for close to an hour here, piece by piece, peeling off the facade and getting into the walls and getting under the eaves. That other home we were talking about, it's 2 doors up. It does appear to be a total loss. The roof is completely collapsed. They've been hitting it now with a water cannon and just dumping a tremendous amount of water on it, and that certainly is slowing down the fire. Sure, sorry for that. But this home, it looks like they're going to save it, which is good news. It's just hard to watch as they peel it apart like this. trying to get to all the little embers that are burning inside. But overall, you have to think that they've done a great job. Watch yourself, Edgar. They're getting a little water come through. I want to mention the water real quick. A short time ago, about 10 minutes ago, we got doused with a lot of water. We were both soaked. And in 10 minutes, we're almost completely dry, just to give you an idea of how dry it is out here. So that's the other issue they're dealing with. Humidity levels extremely low. The wind continues to be a factor. And, of course, there's a lot of brush in between these homes. But it looks like this is going to be a save. And we've only seen one other structure completely lost. So they've done a great job out here.
John,
of course, we've got a long way to go.
John, I want to bring up what you're just saying right there, because the images that we see can really cause fear and can scare people, and you see structures burning. But then when you start to really look at the work being done by firefighters, there are a lot of resources in place, and it seems from my perspective that they're able to really halt a lot of the spread in many cases. And I'm not trying to say this is not dangerous, but they're doing an amazing job with the resources they have to really try and control this in horrible conditions.
Yeah, they certainly are, Philip. Keep in mind, when we first arrived on scene, we had a lot of brush on the hillside behind these homes burning, and it was a much more chaotic situation. Firefighters were scrambling from neighborhood to neighborhood, trying to keep these homes safe. We had some airdrops from the helicopters that made a huge difference. And once they got most of that brush out, they could focus more on the structures that were burning, or in this case, the structures that had embers smoldering inside of them, and then they could really focus their resources. But initially, when we arrived out here, it was quite chaotic, and it looked pretty grim. So this is a much better situation they're dealing with now, and that's because that brush on the hillside behind these homes, for the most part, has burned out. It's pretty much out. And so now they can focus primarily on just keeping these structures safe, and that's what they're doing now.
And John, is that area where you are, that street, is it fully evacuated, or can you see residents out there watching the firefight and sort of hosing down their homes?
Leslie, we have not seen any residents. It does look like this was a complete evacuation, which is certainly good news, because you can see on the street, Edgar, if you can pan down the street and show all the fire units, there's not a lot of room for residents to, hang out. Firefighters need space to work, and the street's pretty crowded with structure protection units right now. So you can imagine if you had people trying to evacuate on the street, what a nightmare that would be. And that's one of the issues. That's one of the reasons why they want to get people out before they get in, because they need room to operate.
Well, and certainly many people listened yesterday because, and again, with the 14, with Soledad Canyon being affected, there's so many streets closed, and it's not easy getting in and out of there normally. So it was great that so many people have left. But we're going to go to Brandy now, because not only do you have mandatory evacuation orders, you have evacuation warnings. You have areas that people are saying, hey, this is a time to start looking to get out of there.
Definitely, especially with new evacuations that are just ordered overnight, Philip and Leslie. As we came on the air this morning, we have a map of Santa Clarita, and a lot of people are wondering what's under evacuation new this morning. So I'm going to zoom in here. You can see the tick fire where they've marked it, but as we zoom in to Canyon Country here, this is the area that is now, under evacuation now, right here along south of the 14. And that is why, because, forgive me, the map sometimes jumps around. Sand Canyon east, this is Agua Dulce here to the west. And this is the area Scott Rife has been the biggest concern, is if this area goes up, obviously they have more fuel. But as we zoom in, there are hundreds of homes here that are now under those evacuation orders this morning. And you guys were talking about Soledad Canyon right along the 14 here. This is a road that is now being blocked by firefighters. So if you have to evacuate all of these homes here, the best way to get out right now is to take Sand Canyon down south to Placerita Canyon and try to get out that way. But these are the homes we're talking about under new evacuation orders just this morning because of that fire jumping south to the 14. Now, as firefighters try to get ahead of it, this is that area that moves farther to the east where there's a lot of dry fuel, vegetation, maybe a few homes here. But this in general is the neighborhood that they're concerned about right now.
Okay, very good. Brandy, thank you very much for that. Let's go back up to Scott Rife, Air 7 HD. Scott, seeing something fully engulfed and seeing that white smoke.
Well, yeah, Leslie and Philip, we're on that home where John Gregory was. I'll bring up SkyMap 7. It's on Sequoia Road in Archer's Lane. And sadly, we feel for the homeowners, that home has been lost. But one thing I want to point out is, do you see how many resources it took just to contain that home once it collapsed? The problem that you have in a situation like this, if they can't stop that from spreading to a couple other homes, you have 3 or 4 homes that start to burn in an area. It's such thick, heavy fuel, and the embers are so big and so hot that they start the next house on fire. They hopscotch through an area. Well, so far they've been able to stop that, but you can see how many resources came to that home right there. So what we did is we started to look around at some other areas where fire was close to homes. I think it's off to the left side of our screen. As we tilt to the left, it was on Everglades Court, right there in the center of your screen. And we saw this little fire break out on the ridge line right underneath the home, and then we saw the fire get right next to the balcony of that home, and then firefighters showed up. They showed up on scene, and now they have some structure protection. But certainly this is an extremely dangerous situation right now because you can't get as many helicopters in here as you'd like. You have hundreds of spot fires right next to homes, and once a home catches on fire, you can see what happens. You need a lot of resources, not just to try and stop the fire in that home. You're probably going to lose it, but to stop it from jumping from one house to the next. And there you go. It flared up next to that home. This is on Everglades Court. This is on the north side of the 14. But we have dozens, if not hundreds of situations just like this playing out throughout this entire area. I want to open it up and show you Soledad Canyon because earlier this morning you could get by on Soledad. There's a 14. We'll push down into that yard. I think Alex may have been driving by the yard. I'm not certain on the 14, but that yard has been burning for some time. There's a lot of semis in there, containers, and Soledad on the bottom of your screen. That is shut down, but 45 minutes ago, traffic could get through. But you've seen what they've done. They're not going to let people through here. So don't think you're going to sneak by. You could get completely stranded. It won't be worth it. Try one of those routes that Brianna had given you to get around this. But you can see traffic now. You're just stranded on Soledad Canyon. We'll try and give you a little perspective and a wide shot. Compared to what we saw yesterday afternoon, the fire has laid down nicely. That is good. We just don't have the resources in the area. We'll show you where everything is. Soledad crosses the 14 there. And then we'll pan left, and we'll show you down by Sand Canyon. And there is fire south of the 14, right in there. Push in if you would, Tad. South of the 14 at Sand Canyon. And what was it, 4 or 5 years ago? That's where the sand fire started. And remember what that did. And we can't see it because it's dark. Actually, maybe we can a little bit. Let's try the satellite view, if you could bring that up for me, Tad. And what happens is south of this location right here at Sand Canyon, and yeah, go ahead and give me on air the satellite view. South of this location, what you have is a lot of mountainous terrain. And then as you continue to go to the south, you see there's not much to burn there. But if we continue to the left and open up on the satellite, what happens is you get a lot of mountainous terrain once you get past this wash, and then you're going to have a lot of houses off to the left side of your screen that are nestled into some of that heavy brush. And that's what they're worried about. See down Oak Springs Road, Comet Way. Once it gets down into that area, it's really difficult to protect. And you can tell even by the satellite shot, some of that area is already burned. That's very interesting. That was from the sand fire. So that will certainly help once it gets into that area. We'll come back out to the right and show you the 14. That would be the southwestern flank of the fire right in there. And you can see firefighters are set up on the 14 freeway, but then you still have these hot spots. So there's a lot of exposures here. There's a lot of dangers to this fire, and we're just waiting for more resources from the air to get in here and start making those drops.
Well, Scott, as we look at these little spot fires and the intensity with which they burn and the speed with which they burn, you pointed out how many resources it took to stop one of those fires. It's remarkable to me the coordination that it takes. Can you, from your perspective, watching these crews move, so many different places, it's a remarkable effort logistically to fight this type of fire.
Yeah, there is absolutely no question about that. Now, they've had all night to set up. They've had all night to get ready to go, and it is extremely difficult. But if you saw what happened yesterday afternoon, that was extremely chaotic. There was really just people scrambling, fire crews scrambling, trying to get to where they needed to be, and they just didn't know. because it crept up on them so fast. It moved so quickly. In a situation like this, you've got someone on the ground talking to the other firefighters and the units, and they'll say, hey, we got a flare up here at this court, and they'll immediately get to that spot. So it's not as bad as it was yesterday afternoon. The coordination has been fantastic and still an issue. They've done a fantastic job of saving the homes that they have.
Okay, Scott, thank you very much. Let's go down on the ground to John Gregory, who has been there for several hours this morning and watched one home just be destroyed. John.
Yeah, Leslie, that's the home we're showing you now. They've just cut the garage door open with a saw, and they're getting inside there. You can see a lot of black smoke coming out. This is the other nasty aspect of these structure fires. A lot of man-made materials start to burn. They're toxic. You don't want to be breathing them in, is what I'm trying to say. Edgar, we got a truck coming right in front of us. Watch yourself. So they're trying to get this thing out. It does appear the home is a complete loss, by the way. I'm surprised the outer shell is still there because the roof is gone. They've been hitting it with this water cannon to my right and dumping a lot of water on it, and now they're trying to get into that garage where you see all that black smoke and to put out whatever's burning in there. So just a dirty job right now of trying to get this thing out once and for all, and it's been a real struggle. Still, there are embers being kicked off of this property, and there's still embers swirling from the backyard. I just walked back behind the yard, and there are some bushes back there still burning. Most of the brush is out, but it's enough when the wind kicks up to get those embers, and that's going to be a danger throughout the morning. But boy, this is, you can see that smoke really starting to get thick there. I don't know what's burning inside, but you know, inside your home, you've got all that man-made stuff, the plastic, the carpets, all that stuff is just really toxic. And firefighters now dealing with that as well. It's just one more challenge. Not to mention the visibility issues when you get in there in that smoke. You can't see a whole lot. So another difficult aspect of the job. It looks like some of the structure protection units here have moved on. I'm taking that as a good sign because this neighborhood somehow has come through this in fairly good order despite this home. We have one home completely lost, another home damaged, but it looks like they saved it. And that's quite a victory considering what we saw when we came up this hill. It was pretty crazy. And that hillside behind all these homes was just in flames, 20-foot flames reaching up to these homes. And the fact that we only have one loss is pretty amazing, but the work still goes on. So it's going to be a long challenge for these guys.
Okay, John, thank you. I just was getting an update here from Metrolink. We're going to hold on to your shot. I just wanted to pass this along because as everybody's affected by this as their commute and trying to get where they're going, Antelope Valley Line 202 to Los Angeles is going to hold in Lancaster because of a track closure between Vincent Grade and Via Princesa. Fire department activity, clearly, near the tracks, and because of the 14 freeway closure, buses can't be secured. So this is no longer just affecting people driving. It's now affecting people who are taking Metro. That is an update from Metrolink. So there's a lot going on. And hopefully, John, at your location, you talked about this, so many people have already evacuated. So hopefully they'll be gone. We're not going back to John at this point.
We'll have
we're
John hang on there, and we're going to go on over to Leslie Lopez. And Les, you said that in the next few hours is when those winds are going to die down just a bit.
We're in the thick of it right now. So the winds really started to pick up right about midnight last night. And I mean, in some areas, once you get into the upper elevations, we're looking at very, very strong gusty winds. Now, there is a particular weather station right near where this fire is burning. It is a SoCal Edison weather station. So tapping into that, I just wanted to show you what that latest information coming out of that particular weather station looks like. It's about 77 degrees through Santa Clarita near that tick fire. Relative humidity is around 7%. We are looking at an east-northeast winds at about 20 miles per hour, and the gusts right now are about 32 miles per hour. That's what firefighters are dealing with right now. So, I mean, very strong gusty winds. But you head into an elevation just a couple hundred feet above that, and we're seeing gusts of about 52 miles per hour. So, again, there are still gusts surrounding that area that are very strong, even though 32-mile-per-hour gusts are certainly strong with sustained winds of 20 miles per hour. We are going to get back to wind speeds. I just wanted to show you this map. It's colorful. but the colors are just really good indication of where we're seeing some of the strongest winds. We have very strong winds out towards our low desert. We have strong winds through areas of our foothills into the San Bernardino area, but you get over to Santa Clarita, and that's where we're seeing some strong winds as well. So you have this red color here, and that red color, again, just as that particular weather station is reporting, you're in this zone. So about 30 to 35 mile per hour winds, which is exactly what's happening. And as we progress into the future, these bright colors are going to start to turn into lighter colors. And I just wanted to stop the clock a couple of times just to show you when this is all going to happen. 6:30 a.m., we're still dealing with very strong gusty winds. You get a little bit farther in the day, right about 1 o'clock, these winds are starting to quiet down a little bit. So it's really from noon onward that we have this really great diminishing of the wind velocities, and that's what we'll look forward to. But there is a big measurable drop between noon and 5 o'clock today where those winds really start to subside, and that's when firefighters can get a really great, at least advantage. Right now they're at a complete disadvantage with the strong winds that they're dealing with, and of course the very low humidity levels that we're talking about. 7% relative humidity, that's all we have right now through the Santa Clarita Valley. And what that means is fire ignition can happen so quickly. So all those little embers that are flying around, they hit another area where we're seeing some grass or chaparral, and they could ignite that particular hillside very quickly. So that's unfortunate. We hate to see relative humidity levels get down into the single-digit territory, especially this early in the morning. When we have the sun not out, we should have really nice recovery overnight, but not today. Today, Santa Clarita is still at 7%. Another dry spot. Ontario, you're only at 6% here. Woodland Hills, you're at 8%. And it's still very dry throughout even our coastal communities. 13% out there in Long Beach. So you're feeling very, very dry conditions immediately when you walk out the door here. Now, the good news is, again, I think that we have a couple hours. Unfortunately, it's not soon enough, but we have a couple hours where we're going to deal with strong winds, but they should start to decline as we're heading into your lunch hour and then get significantly better after we head into lunch into about 5 o'clock. 80 degrees right now in Van Nuys, 77 in Santa Clarita. So again, we're still looking at temperatures that are going to be warm for this time of morning. So we also don't like to see that. Temperatures this afternoon are going up. We're back into the mid-90s, so it's going to get very hot out there. And then eventually, finally, tomorrow, we're going to see measurable changes back into some cooler territory. And really the big, nice recovery will happen on Sunday. And then we might even get a little bit of rain next week. So we'll cross our fingers for that, guys. Over to you.
All right, Les, thanks very much. We will cross our fingers for that. Let's go on over to Brandy Hitt. She's got more on some more evacuations, Brandy?
Yeah, LA County Fire just extended this in the last few minutes, Philip and Leslie. Originally, we were showing you a map here. This is the Tick Fire along the 14 freeway. And as we zoom in here, originally this was the new evacuation order this morning east of Sand Canyon. But now they're extending it to a bunch of homes here along Placerita all the way back to the 14 freeway south. So there are hundreds of homes down in here and more homes that spread here along Placerita as you go back to the 14. All of this area has been added to the evacuation orders this morning. Obviously, this is where the Tick Fire started. We started our coverage yesterday afternoon. It jumped the 14 freeway and Soledad Canyon, which is a major thoroughfare that goes all the way across Santa Clarita. We have firefighters here that have now shut down parts of this road because this is where they're fighting all of those spot fires and kind of in the area where John Gregory and Alex are this morning. So if you live south of here, know that you're now under an evacuation order that's extending all the way across. Anybody familiar with this region knows this has all been built up over the last decade with a lot of tract homes, and now hundreds of homes are being impacted. Back over to you.
Thank you, Brandy. So we'll go from that map of where people are being required to go, because that area south of the 14, that's all new. So just go ahead and start exiting that area. But let's go back to John Gregory, because, John, we're hearing you're seeing a lot of thick black smoke coming from that house. We kind of see it.
Oh, yeah, really thick smoke coming out of the garage now, Philip. We're hearing some banging, too. I don't know if that's floors collapsing or if firefighters are knocking down doors. But there are firefighters right in the middle of that black smoke trying to knock this thing down once and for all. And, boy, it's hard to imagine getting that close to that stuff because it's just so nasty. They do have breathing apparatuses on, obviously. But still, look at that flame coming in. Those firefighters are right there. Gosh, it looks really dangerous for these guys. I don't know what's burning in there. This fire has been burning for hours now, and they just can't seem to get it out. Obviously, they've been spread out, their resources, but they're finally getting into the first floor now. They cut open the garage door with a saw, and if you look, Edgar, you can see this vent. You see more flame in there. So there is fire burning throughout this property, and firefighters are getting their nose is right in there. And boy, it's got to be an incredibly difficult job for these guys. But they're pumping a lot of water in. They still have water coming in from above from a water cannon and on the ground now as well. This is the one home we think we lost. We keep coming back to it because it's the only property where we believe we have a complete loss. And it's sad to see, but for the neighborhood as a whole, it's good news that firefighters were able to save so many other homes. But now it's the smoke is just so thick and swirling around these guys, and looks like they're just trying to put this thing out once and for all. You can see flames coming up on the roof over here too. There's still a lot of fire burning in this property.
As I watch it, John, sometimes you see these guys up close and you see what they're doing so specifically, and I can't help but notice the green flashing light, and clearly that's so that you can find them. I mean, the conditions they're working in, you talk about that thick black smoke, we can actually physically see them, and I can only imagine that's what we want for other firefighters, being able to find each other in the event of an injury.
Yeah, Philip, without those lights, right, you would not be able to see those guys at all without those lights right there. Yeah, this visibility is horrible. Looks like they're running another line behind the house now. There's some brush back there. It's like one piece of brush that has just been smoldering and kicking up embers for hours. It looks like they're trying to get some water on it now.
But it still is just...
That just gives you a really good idea about all the resources that go into fighting a fire, especially with this home. This has been the better part of an hour, and they have been just hammering away at this home and the other one next to it, and it is still firing up.
Well, and John, we see active flames now, which is what we haven't seen for a few minutes now, right there at that house. Is that new?
And it is, yeah, it looks like it's new, Phil, but again, it's amazing. I think part of what's happening, as they open this house up, that wind is starting to push through it, and that's really giving this fire more life. And so that's another issue they have to deal with when they're fighting these things. As the roof came off, the home was exposed to the wind, and the fire inside the home was exposed to the wind, and that kind of generates more energy for this fire. And so it's just one battle after the next for these guys. I see white smoke now. That's usually a good sign. Hopefully they found the source of all that black smoke. You know, it's the garage, so maybe there's a vehicle in there. Maybe you got tires burning, all sorts of possibilities, all of it hazardous. Yeah, it looks like they're making some progress now.
Well, as Scott has said so many times, and John, you know this as well, that one of the difficulties of a fire in a home in these conditions is there's so much fuel, whatever it might be, as you mentioned, garage, it could be, you know, the support, the structure itself,
right.
And then when it collapses, it just throws that ember everywhere.
Yeah.
Now, we have some video from earlier today from one of the stringers who has been driving through the area. This is the 14 freeway prior to it being closed, clearly, because a driver is able to drive. But take a look. This is the fire that we've talked about has jumped the 14, and it is in small areas south of the 14, and that is a primary focus of firefighters because they do not want it continuing further south because it creates a whole other range of issues. But you can see what drivers were facing as they were trying to get through the freeway before it closed. Again, the 14 freeway is shut down now. And as you look at this video, remember, we were talking about this a moment ago. The Antelope Valley Line 202 to Los Angeles is going to hold at Lancaster because of the fire that's so near the tracks. So due to the 14 freeway closure as well, buses can't be secured to do a little bus bridge. So this is a major issue for your commute along with the fire.
Yes, it is. And what a frightening picture to see those flames just coming so close to the freeway. Let's go back to Scott Reif, Air 7 HD. Scott, is it looking at all a little better?
No, I wouldn't say that. I mean, from time to time it flares up, and so it's so difficult to really try and give this any sort of, better status from what we can tell. We've been keeping an eye on that home where John is, and boy, when it collapses, the reason they have so many resources there, they don't want this fire hopping over to the other side of Sequoia, because if it starts onto another house, then they're not going to have enough resources, and then it'll hopscotch through that area. They're doing a fantastic job, but it's 1 minute it looks a little better, Leslie, and the next minute a little wind kicks up and it starts to take off again. I wanted to show you, I wanted to open up out of this shot. This is off Sequoia Road. You can see that. That's where John Gregory is in Arches Lane. But as we come off to the right, I'll show you the far northern portion of the fire burning along the 14. I know it's pretty dark there, but you'll see it in a moment. And there's some very steep terrain. Now, this is south of Acton. I want to go to the satellite view. What's burning right up in there is just mountainous terrain, but pan to the right a little bit and then and push in up to the top of your screen. Now, that's going to be the Agua Dulce area, so you can tell it's south of that on the 14, but there's a lot of homes in there. We'll come off of that portion of Sky Map. We'll go back to that fire line on the bottom of your screen. There's really a concern that it'll creep forward to the north because it's such mountainous terrain, such steep terrain, and they'll have to fight the fire on that level as well. But if we come back down, we'll show you something interesting. Along Soledad Canyon Road, they reopened it to let people through. I think it's right there, if I'm not mistaken, if you push in. They reopened Soledad Canyon Road to let some people through, but I'm going to be surprised if they don't shut it down up in the Acton area. You see how they're getting by? There's that truck yard we were looking at, and they do have one lane open for southbound traffic, but at any moment they could shut it down again, so I really wouldn't recommend that anybody try that. Try coming down through Acton, getting down to Soledad Canyon, because there's a real good chance if something does flare up in here, you could be stranded, and you could spend maybe the day in here. If it picks up to the south and to the north, you just won't be able to get through. So it's a risky shot at trying to make it through here. I personally wouldn't do it. And then you can't see it on here, but way to the south of this, running basically through the northern end of the Angeles Forest Mountains is Placerita Canyon. And that's going to get shut down, and that's the area that they're going to start those mandatory evacuations, and that's just in case this fire spreads further to the south. But here's an idea. That's where Soledad Canyon crosses under the 14. There's Sequoia Road. If you push back into that again, right there on the right side of your screen, it's a little bit different of an angle and tilt up a little bit. There was a home that it looked like we almost had move up a ridge line right to the side of the house, but they got structure protection in there to save it. And that's really the battle we're seeing right now, is watching these little hot spots take off and then watching the fire crews rush to that area to try and save the home. This one here obviously has been lost, but considering how many homes are here, it's amazing that we haven't lost more.
All right. Scott, thank you very much as we continue to follow the tick fire. Yeah. And Scott Rice shot shows what they're dealing with.
That's a testament to those firefighters that they haven't lost more homes. But right now at 5 a.m., a special edition of Eyewitness News. If you are just now joining us, we are continuing to track the tick fire, which is burning in Santa Clarita.
The fire's burned nearly 4,000 acres. Now, it's 5% contained, but it's the spotting nature of it that's so difficult right now.
Right. And overnight, the fire jumped the 14 freeway, which is shut down right now in both directions between Golden Valley and Escondido Canyon. At least 6 homes were burned during the fire yesterday, and this morning we've seen homes damaged as well by the fire.
New evacuations were ordered this morning, and this is in addition to the tens of thousands of people who were told to leave yesterday. There's a large area south of the 14 freeway. There's another little strip right along Placerita Canyon Road that is being told to it is a mandatory evacuation. So that's new just within the past hour or so. Dozens of schools, 2 colleges also closed because of smoke and extreme fire danger, with a red flag warning still in place.
Let's go to John Gregory. He has been following this for several hours this morning. He is in a neighborhood where 2 homes have burned, and we've watched it. John.
And Leslie, it looks like they once again have a handle on this fire. It's been an up and down fight all morning long. They had to cut into the garage, and it looks like whatever was burning in there has finally been put out. It was generating a tremendous amount of thick black smoke, and firefighters really had to get in there and hit it with a lot of water. Now you can see they got some fire burning on the roof there. But boy, this fire has been persistent, and it's been really difficult, and it continues to kick off a lot of embers, and those embers now blowing into other homes across the street and blowing, I assume, into more brush down the hillside. So that's going to be the real issue throughout the morning, all because of this wind. And it does feel like we're getting a bit of a wind shift. I don't know if Leslie's noticed anything, but it feels like it's moved a little bit on us, and that may be another issue they have to deal with. You can see behind the hill here, Edgar, we got more embers kicking up. They just hit that with water 5 minutes ago. I think there's some brush still burning back there, and the embers just flying up into the air in this area. But this home, we believe, the only home lost on this street, which is great news. 2 doors down, there's another home that did have some damage, extensive damage, but it looks like firefighters have saved it. I just took a walk down there. It looked okay. So that's good news. It's really amazing. We've only lost 1 home so far up here. When we arrived this morning, an hour and a half ago, the hillside behind these homes was raging. We had 20-foot flames, and I thought we were going to lose the whole block. That's how bad it looked. But they had a helicopter dropping water, and that helicopter did amazing work. It just shut down that brush, and it allowed the structure protection guys to get in and start saving these homes. And so far, they're doing a great job, despite what you see with this one home, which sadly it appears to be a complete loss. But the other homes all look to be in pretty good shape.
Well, John, you mentioned being able to walk back there and see that hillside behind the home that we're looking at right now. I wanted to ask you, because you can see some of the embers and some of the little sparks that are coming up there. What kind of fuel is back there? Are we talking just brush, or are there trees back there? Because these trees can explode and really create embers that can travel for miles. What kind of brush is back there?
Well, Philip, there's not a lot of anything left. We have this one persistent, wow, really getting the wind. Here you really feel the wind. We have a very persistent stump or tree, or, it looks like just the remnants of the fire still smoldering here, and that's what's kicking up all that flame. This is not regular, I wouldn't call this brush, I'd call it some kind of ground cover that appears to have been put in here, but obviously it burned pretty good. And this whole, look around out there. I don't know how well the camera's going to pick it up, but there are hot spots all over this valley below us here, behind these homes, and the embers are still getting kicked up. Look at that. You really get a sense of the danger and the problem of these embers. And here's the home that was lost. And those embers, I'm assuming, got up in the eaves and just ignited the attic up there, because the fire did start on the 2nd floor. And now, of course, that home appears to be a total loss.
Oh, so sad to see. John, we're going to let you get out of there in a position where you're a lot safer in front of the house. But thank you so much. Just incredible to see that up close, that hillside, which was charred, and that's how the house caught fire.
Well, and what's remarkable to me as we bring Leslie Lopez in is the difference in the condition from the shelter, which is on one side of the home, and then you walk through that just alleyway almost, and it's just a tunnel, a wind tunnel.
That geographic location really does matter. I mean, when you talk about just little tiny peaks and hills or gullies, that can really change the weather flow in that particular area. So just like John we just saw it from a shot, it really just, you're unlucky or you're lucky sometimes here with these things. Red flag warning. Well, there it is. It's moving through most communities in the Southern California. We have a high wind warning as well, and that's going to go all the way through tonight or today around noon. And then we start to see a nice measurable decline in our wind velocities. That happens right about noon onto 5 o'clock this afternoon. So that's when we're going to see a real nice big break from these very strong gusty winds. I just wanted to point out the newest update from that particular weather station that's right by John's location. So this particular weather station is Southern California Edison Station. Right now it's clocking 19-mile-per-hour sustained winds, which is pretty strong to have sustained winds at 19. But then we're seeing some gusts blowing at 31 miles per hour. Now, I know it looks like from this shot that the winds are probably gusting pretty strong. And again, that's very possible. It just depends on your geographic location and if you have that setup where you can get some of these strong winds moving down into your pass or little canyon area. So we continue with very low humidity levels. You head up into upper elevations, and I've been seeing some winds of about 52 miles per hour, not too far by over near Moore Park. So again, you have some very strong winds throughout the area and surrounding the area. Over in Santa Clarita, again, this particular weather station that we have is a different one. This is a Mesa West weather station. All you need to know is it's in a different location, and so it's clocking in a little bit lighter winds through that area. Then you're going to get into the afternoon today, and we're going to show you that some of these wind speeds, and the brighter colors do indicate stronger winds, are going to start to quiet down. So I'm going to take you through it. This is 6:30 now. Still dealing with strong winds through Santa Clarita, and then it's going to come down right about noon. We start to see those winds get down about 17 miles per hour, and then they continue to diminish as we're heading into your lunch hour, into your afternoon rather. So right about 5 o'clock, we really get this nice break from those winds. So we're going to keep this going for a couple of hours. Unfortunately, we do have some good news. By tomorrow, cooler, more moisture, and it just leads us into more of a fall weather pattern by next week. Over to you guys.
All right, we just got to get through this tough time, Les. Thanks very much. Alex Cheney has moved to Sugarloaf and Sequoia, so let's go to him. Alex, what's going on there?
Yeah, Philip and Leslie, good morning. There's a lot of fire trucks over here because of this house just behind me. As you can see, the roof has burnt off. The roof is burnt. It's a two-story home, it looks like, so the roof is off on the living room. You can see those winds just whipping the smoke, whipping the embers, whipping anything that's coming off the house right now. There's quite a bit of water on the ground. They're trying to put this out. They're trying to save the nearby homes as well. I can see active flames right now from the upstairs bedroom, more than likely. There's some in the garage as well. You can see that front awning of the home over the garage has fallen down considerably. They're actively spraying it with water right now. This home, I wouldn't call it a complete loss, but it's definitely in trouble. There's also some homes right next to this one that have also received a little bit of that fire damage as well. It's also important to note that this house doesn't back up into any other houses. It backs up right into that canyon. So that's more than likely where these flames eventually made their way into the structure. But things are really windy out here, and so that's what increases that fire concern right now. I can see at least one other house right now on this block that's also received some fire damage as well, but this house is in really big trouble right now. As you can see, that front portion coming down like that, and also we can see some pretty strong flames coming from inside the home. There's probably at least 3 fire trucks that I can see just in this very short cul-de-sac where I'm standing right now over in Santa Clarita. We moved just a little bit off State Route 14 where we were before, and we made our way into this subdivision. So as you can see, this house is worse for wear right now, with the front portion of the house sliding down like that. So Philip and Leslie, this is certainly a terrifying scene for the family that lives here.
Well, Alex, you can also, as your camera is zooming in, you can see very specifically really what got the other house where John Gregory is. The fire gets right under it gets into the attic, and it sits there, and you really can't get water on that specific spot because unless you're in the home, unless you can ventilate the home and get down into it. And that's just horrible to see, Alex. Yeah,
it's absolutely terrifying, Philip. And this house, it's not an attic anymore. I mean, this thing, the roof is gone. Which is one of the most terrifying portions of this whole thing, and yeah, it's going to take firefighters to actually get in there and try to put some flame. But if you were to open that garage door, that would cause an updraft, and that would be a terrible idea. So that's why they haven't done that just yet. But this is really terrifying to see, Philip and Leslie.
Okay, Alex, thanks very much for that. Let's go back to Scott Reif, Air 7 HD, and you can see those flames just going up the hillside there. Scott.
Yeah, that's the 14 freeway, so that gives you an idea. That's one of the flare-ups we see right now. That gives you an idea why the 14 is shut down and why it's probably going to be shut down for some time, because there's still a lot of brush right along the 14. Now, I want to show you, though, we talked a lot about Soledad Canyon, and if we come out of this shot just a little bit, moments ago they shut it down again. That's why I was saying I wouldn't recommend trying to get down along the 14 on Soledad Canyon. You see Soledad Canyon there a moment ago. We continue to the left. Show me the closure, please. They shut it down. And what you're worried about is that you might get stuck here for hours. So I wouldn't try Soledad Canyon. There's a lot of folks doing that. Right there, Soledad Canyon in the 14. And you can see they shut it down. So they tried to let some of the traffic through, and now they're just saying, hey, we need our equipment in here, or it's just not safe. And we open up a little bit, you'll see all of these cars lined up, hundreds now, if not thousands of vehicles trying to get out of the Acton area along Soledad Canyon. So I think they're going to shut down Soledad Canyon well to the east up in the Acton area so this doesn't happen to people, but don't do this. And you can see that's the truck yard we've been keeping an eye on. That really started to take off. A lot of semis in here. They had structure protection or fire crews here to protect those trailers a moment ago. They may have pulled out to go to another spot. And as we open up, we can go to that area where Josh was and show you. It was tough for us. It's right there. Push in. I think it's Sugar Court, if I'm not mistaken, Sugar Loaf Court. And you can see the structure. Go to the satellite for a moment for me, Tad. And you see at the end of the cul-de-sac, you can see those homes there. We'll come back out to the live shot. That really helps us to see if that's a home or not, and you can tell that it is. The winds have been erratic. We've got maybe a 50-mile-an-hour wind kicking up, hitting us pretty hard up here, and then it dies down. So we're really starting to get rocked, and I'm afraid as we get a little more daylight, we start to see things warm up a little bit. The winds may get a little bit more erratic, and that's going to make it very difficult to save these structures.
Okay, Scott, thanks very much. Brianna Ruffalo looking at the traffic, and you've got some alternates for us, Brianna.
Yeah, Leslie, a tough commute if you're trying to leave Lancaster, Palmdale, trying to get to Los Angeles. I mean, the 14 is the freeway most people take out of that direction to get down to the 5 and get down to the city if you're working anywhere in that area, and it is shut down. You're not going to be able to take it. So we are looking at some alternate routes, but it's advised to not even go in this direction because some people may be thinking they could take Sierra Highway. That is also closed. So the 14 freeway is shut down in both directions for some parts of Canyon Country all the way to Agua Dulce. So we know for sure it's closed at least at Golden Valley, but we know additional roads could be closed in that area, and you cannot take Sierra Highway. So the best option would be taking Pear Blossom or Angeles Forest Highway to get around, but you still need to take some other highways and cannot plan on getting on the 14 really at all. Just try and get around and go to the 5 to get around it. But I mean, we're talking a very long commute. We're seeing a lot of those roads already backed up, and we can expect it to just take a really long time this morning. So if you are still going to work today, it is just going to take a while. Right now, we're seeing some estimated times about an hour and a half. I think it's going to take much longer than that. Philip, Leslie, back over to you guys.
Oh, I can only imagine. It's one of those days where you probably should just stay home, Brianna, because getting in it is only going to create more problems. Look at that fight. We're going to go to John Gregory now, though. And John, your scene is eerily similar to what Alex was facing in that a house right up next to some open space, those embers got up in the roof and we lost one.
And Philip, we were really surprised when we went behind that home how strong the wind was. The homes here are acting kind of like as a block for the wind, but behind the homes, it's really raging back there. And you can see this one home that was lost. It's still burning. We have fire inside on both floors, and they're still trying to deal with it. And the embers are still getting kicked up. It's just been a long challenge. That fire we told you about in the backyard, that piece of brush that was burning, they did finally get back there and knock it down. One firefighter tried to use a garden hose, but the winds were so strong the water was just getting blown back onto him. He couldn't even get it to the fire, just to give you a sense of how strong that wind was. But they finally got a heavy fire line in there, and they hit it hard. And it looks like that piece of brush is finally out. But now the remnants of this home still burning, still causing issues. I can smell some burnt plastic now, so all those household products are now burning inside as well. And the challenge continues. Some of the structure units here have redeployed, so I think that's a good sign as they continue this fight. We're live in Canyon Country. I'll send it back to you.
Okay, John, thank you very much. Looks like the winds are really gusting where John is. We are joined right now on the telephone by Captain and Brenda from LA County Fire Department. Captain and Brenda, thank you so much for joining us. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
All right. What can you tell us? What is the latest on this tick fire that we've been following all morning, and we've seen several hot spots and homes burning this morning?
Well, we're continuing to battle a major high-pressure Santa Ana wind event here. It is fueling this fire and contributing to a rapid and erratic spread of this fire. So our firefighters are facing some significant challenges out there tonight. We have a very powerful ember cast off the head of this fire, and it's causing us issues with spots. And defending structures in this type of environment is a very difficult endeavor. We are imploring the folks living in the area to please evacuate if you are told to do so as early as possible. If you stay in the fire area for too long, it greatly complicates our ability to fight this fire and employ the tactics that we like to use.
Captain and Brenda, along those lines, let's talk about the new evacuation orders that that have been implemented south of the 14 freeway. Does it make matters worse, the difficulty of just getting out of that area, the 14 freeway? Placer Canyon is an area where people are evacuating. Just getting out of there is difficult. So do you need to give those orders more quickly than maybe in a different circumstance?
When we have a wind-driven fire, we cannot get evacuation orders out fast enough, and people can't comply with them fast enough. We need to be as efficient and orderly and as swift as possible with these evacuation orders, because the consequences are dire if you're caught in an area where your egress is blocked by fire because of all of the burning debris that's swirling around out there in the wind.
Captain, tell me about the assets that you are using to deal with this fire. We saw some water drops with choppers this morning, early this morning, in the dark. But when the sun comes up, what do you have to deal with, and what can you tell us about that?
Well, certainly, we're very lucky in Los Angeles County to have such skilled helicopter pilots that are flying Firehawk helicopters, night vision equipped. And they're really the only aircraft that can fly in this type of wind and still have effective drops. They provide us a really important defensive factor for our firefighters on the ground and give us a really good offensive capability to take the energy out of the head of a fire when it's impeding on a structure or potentially putting one of our crews in danger. So our ability to have those copters out there at night flying in this type of weather with all of the hazards that are out there with the power lines and debris, it's an incredible effort. The maintenance people, the round-the-clock servicing of these helicopters, keeping them in the air is a remarkable effort. As we get into the daylight hours, we will be able to get assistance from other aircraft from other agencies that don't fly at night like LA County does, and that will bring us a lot more assets into the operational area, certainly fixed-wing air tankers, and we'll be able to get some retardant drops so that we're able to utilize the terrain features out there in the operational area to help guide this fire in the direction that we want it to go.
Okay. Thank you, Captain and Brenda. He answered the question before I was even going to ask, which is how will this fight from the air change once the sun comes up? And that is, we had great effort overnight, but it's going to intensify once that sun comes up. But Captain and Brenda, LA County Fire, I want to say thank you for joining us. As we continue to watch this fire, we've seen Alex Cheney, John Gregory, both on the ground near homes that have been lost. But in a sense, we've also seen homes saved in those shots. Alex's shot is there on the left. John Gregory is there on the right. The one on the right, we've been watching since right about 3 o'clock in the morning. And it's just been so stubborn because we haven't been able to figure a way to just stop that fire. But one of the things that we've seen is when you go behind these homes, it's a wind tunnel. The homes have been serving as a bit of a don't get fooled by looking at the scene from the front of the homes where it's gusty but not really bad, because right behind those homes, it's brutal. The wind has just really kicked up behind those homes. Yeah, we have seen that displayed. And as Captain and Brenda said, that they have a powerful ember cast. So that is what they are working against. And it is spotting all over the place. And that's what's getting under the roofs of these houses and in the attics and making them go up in flames. Let's go back to Scott Reif, Air 7 HD. Scott.
Yeah, there's the home that Josh Haskell was next to on Sugarloaf Court, right at the end of that cul-de-sac there. And as we pull out of this shot, sadly that home was lost, but boy, so close to so many other homes. You could see south of that, a little flare up there. And you can also see Soledad Canyon Road. An hour and a half ago, you could get through, but if we push in there, Soledad Canyon Road is shut down now. And I don't know when they're going to reopen this. So it's only a 2-lane road. And what's happened, it's been shut down northbound all morning. morning. A lot of folks south trying to get out of, say, the Antelope Valley area, thinking you're going to get through, and you're just not right now. And then you can see how close some of the flames is to Soledad Canyon. If you have a wind shift, you could be in jeopardy. I mean, you could have a fire in front of you and behind you. It's possible. Open up wide. And I'm going to show you. Look at that. It went to the south side of Soledad Canyon. That's a concern. So just don't try Soledad Canyon. You're looking at it right now, and if you're talking to someone who is driving Soledad Canyon and they're not down into this area where it's completely shut down, tell them to turn around. Let's get this hot spot up on the top of our screen along the 14, and you could tell the 14 is not going to be reopened anytime soon because you can see how close this fire is to the 14 freeway. It's right up along the 14. They can't open that. Soledad's not going to be an option. They're trying to get units in here to see if they can't back this off a little bit. They don't want it to jump the 14 at this spot because then it'll get those folks on Soledad Canyon stranded. But this is really flaring up. There was a home, I don't know if we still have it in there, and we got a report of a home that may be on fire on Spring Canyon Road. And let's go to the satellite view for a moment, Tad, and you'll see that house right there. Push in. That was the address we had. And let's go back to our live shot. It's sort of isolated all by itself. You could see someone is there. They had a report that it was on fire. We don't think so, but boy, that's a tough place to be. There's only a dirt road to that spot, and you can see how close it is to the head of the fire. So we'll open up and try and give you a little perspective, but it's been flaring up. The winds have been kicking up, and boy, we really have a lot of exposures, a lot of houses that are still threatened, and a lot of areas this fire could still head to.
All right, we will continue to watch that closely. Scott, thanks very much. Folks in that area dealing with so much. In addition, there are a lot of school closures. Let's go on over to Brandy, and she's got more on that.
Yeah, that's right, Leslie. Most schools are closed in Santa Clarita today, and we posted all of them on our website. You just go to abc7.com to see if your school is impacted. We'll run through a few of these here for you. Hart School District closed. We're talking about most high schools, nearly all of them there. Saugus, Valencia, West Ranch, Hart, Golden Valley. You have the junior highs listed. Also, the Newhall School District. All schools are closed today. Saugus Union Elementary School District. All Castaic Union schools are closed. We saw that other fire there yesterday afternoon that burned homes. College of the Canyons, COC, no school there. Moore Park College is closed. Cal Arts also closed. Even though many of these schools are, 10 miles away, they will be closed today, along with the Department of Catholic Schools for the Archdiocese of Los Angeles. Now, I'm going to scroll back up here because keep this in mind as well. That is all Santa Clarita area, right? Ventura County, you have Fillmore Unified School District that's closed because of just the concern. Also, San Fernando Valley, all San Fernando Valley schools that are part of LA Unified are closed today, along with Community, Roscommore, Topanga Valley View, Wonderland also. Malibu, there's even closures in the Malibu area. So if you're wondering, maybe you didn't get one of those alerts that often goes out to a parent's phone, because I know people in Santa Clarita who also did not get the phone call. You can go to our website right here, and also if you don't have time, just call your school this morning and see if they're going to be open. Philip and Leslie.
Okay. Brandy, thank you very much. And of course, we see the fight from the air, but on the ground, we're really able to see how the winds are kicking up as we look at John Gregory. John.
Yeah, Philip, you can see that water cannon behind me. They've been hitting this house with that water cannon, I want to say for a good hour now. A tremendous amount of water, and we still have flames popping out of this home. I think a lot of it is simply the wind. I mean, I've covered a lot of structure fires, and this thing is so stubborn, and I just think it's the wind has now gotten into this home, and it is spreading it into every nook and cranny, and it just keeps popping up. But boy, they just can't keep hammering away with the water. They've had the crews inside the garage. Looks like the garage is in pretty good shape now. They had a lot of fire burning in there, a lot of black smoke coming out of there. And firefighters now just letting the water cannon do most of the work. Edgar, we got a fire unit. Watch yourself there. They've been on the street for a couple hours now. This is the only home we've lost, which is good news. 2 doors down, there's a home with some damage. And it was another case where the embers got inside the wall, the structure, and they had to peel away the facade to get in there to get those embers. It looks like they did that on that other home. But this home, the one complete loss we see in this block, and it's great news, not obviously for this homeowner, but for everybody else, because this could have been the whole neighborhood looked like it was going to go when we arrived here. So a difficult situation for this one homeowner, and you can see firefighters still hacking away at this thing because they just won't go out. But some of these structure protection units have moved to different locations. We assume that means that the danger is diminishing here. But the persistence of this fire continues, and the embers continue as well. And that's the worry now, is this might spread to some other locations. So the battle here is still not over, and it really is amazing to watch how difficult this fire has been to put out.
John, you know, when we watched Alex's shot a moment ago, he was saying they didn't want to open that garage door because they were afraid of an updraft. But, you know, we saw your garage go up. Do you think was that almost the plan? I mean, did they put out most of the house and then they needed to get further in there? And so, or do you think it was just an out of control pop up that just they had nothing to do with? Some of this is misleading in the sense that it's a part of fighting the fire. Mm-hmm. Fire sometimes fights fire.
Yeah, Philip, I don't know. I'll have to try and talk to them at some point about strategy, but they did cut the garage door open, and we did see a lot of black smoke billowing out. I think they simply felt there was a lot of stuff in there that could make things worse, and they felt a need to get in there and get some water on it, and they did that. And it looks like it worked because the garage appears to be out. It is now, what's left of this fire is now burning in the eaves and in the attic areas and just kind of places that are really difficult to get to. And that's what they're dealing with now.
All right, John, thank you. Let's go back to Alex Cheney. Alex, okay, we can see the house behind you just smoldering there.
Yeah, hey, Philip and Leslie, still in the corner of Sequoia Road and Sugarloaf Court here in this house. As you can see, getting doused by some water right now. They've been actually firing off that water into that upstairs. As you can see, that wall facing the outdoors is starting to lean a little bit right now, so hopefully that doesn't fall in the next few minutes here. Also, that garage from before, we saw lots of flames just coming out of that garage. They've actually been taking the hose and then shooting the water through those windows on top of the garage that you can see. Looks like a lot of those active flames. We got to move out of the way? Okay, I think they're telling us we got to move. Then also this house, actually that's a new flame that just started on this house right over here. So it looks like we're going to drag it through. Yes, sir. Okay, we got to get out of the way of their hoses here. I'm sorry, everybody. Okay, this is an actively developing situation. It's changing. We don't even know what's happening. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, so now we have a little flare-up happening at this house, maybe just 2 doors down from the house that we were showing you just from a moment before. So these firefighters are responding really quickly to this. That's a new flame that you see on top of the house that popped up within the last maybe 60 seconds. Also, all of these houses here in this cul-de-sac, they back up to nothing. So more than likely those flames growing and coming up the hill and then getting into these houses. Also embers from the house that we were showing you just before have been blowing like crazy all over the place. These winds are still very strong from here. We can see some smoke still coming up. And now, of course, a new concern at this house just over here. You can already see a little bit of fire damage to that top floor, so you got to assume that the flames were already there. And now it's restarting as well, as you can see at the top of that home as they try to drown that with some water as well. So it's a pretty frightening situation right here. Oddly enough, the house between these two does not have any fire damage from what I can see. Philip and Leslie, we'll go back to you.
All right, Alex, thank you. And that shot shows exactly what Captain and Brenda has been talking about, how difficult this fight is because of the embers and the random nature of it. Right now at 5:30, we continue our live team coverage of the Tick Fire burning in Santa Clarita. The fire's burned nearly 4,000 acres. It started yesterday about 1:30 in the afternoon. It's 5% contained right now.
Yeah, and overnight that fire, it jumped the 14 freeway, which is shut down right now in both directions between Golden Valley and Escondido Canyon. And at least 6 homes were burned during the fire yesterday. And this morning we have seen more homes damaged by the fire.
New evacuations were also ordered this morning for the Sand Canyon area from the Antelope Valley Freeway to Placerita Canyon Road in Santa Clarita. Also the area east of Rolling Hills Avenue and north of Diver Street in Canyon Country. These evacuations are in addition to the tens of thousands of people who were told to leave yesterday.
Now, dozens of schools and 2 colleges are also closed because of smoke and extreme fire danger, with a red flag warning still in place.
Now, one of the things to remember, too, is we've mentioned the evacuations, we've mentioned road closures. This is affecting a lot of people who don't even live in the immediate fire area. If they're any way connected to the 14 freeway, they're going to potentially be affected by road closures. The metro is also affected as well. So a lot is going on with this fire, whether you're directly impacted by flames themselves or your commute through that area.
And the big issue is, of course, this is a wind-driven fire, and we've had the red flag warnings. And Les is here with more on that.
Hey, good morning. Yeah, that's exactly right. Red flag warning still remains in effect all the way through tonight. And the winds that we're looking at, they're just very traditional, classic Santa Ana. So we are looking at northeast winds coming in through most of Southern California, dry conditions, and over through Santa Clarita. We're looking at that particular area and the terrain. You can see a hillside there. So the winds are coming over that hillside and then really producing some strong gusts as it makes its way into Santa Clarita. Now, what we'll notice, the red flag warning will go on through this evening. We have a high wind warning as well through this afternoon till about noon. So most of these winds should really quiet down from lunch hour till about 5 o'clock this evening. Now, through that particular area, here's a weather station that I've just been monitoring the last couple of hours. Right now, the newest update, still 7% relative humidity right near that fire in Santa Clarita, getting very close to the fire. This weather station is just a few short miles away. And then we're looking at northeast winds coming in about 17 and gusts of about 32. So since about 11 o'clock last night, the gusts have remained around 32 to 35 miles per hour, and that hasn't changed at all. And it doesn't look like it's going to change till we get out of this morning and then into the late morning hours and early afternoon. So we're going to keep it gusty. Here's how it looks right now. Most of the gusts, again, are right through our foothills. Our looks like areas right below the foothills into particularly Santa Clarita. You're seeing some of those strong winds, about 31 mile per hour gusts right now. And then I'm going to stop the clock here a couple of times just to let you know how the rest of the day is going to go. And if you're in this particular area, you can zoom in and just take a look at that. Stopping the clock at 8 o'clock this morning, we still have those 32 to 31 mile per hour gusts. That doesn't change. Finally, right about 1 o'clock this afternoon, we're going to see a nice measurable drop with those wind gusts. So now down to 19 miles per hour. And then from that point forward, we really start to see these gusts diminish and then really quiet down. So that's when the firefighters are hopefully going to get a better edge on this fire, because they are at a disadvantage right now. I mean, looking at the terrain, looking at the vegetation nearby, we're talking about medium chaparral. We're also seeing not only accelerants in that region, but also, unfortunately, we have to talk about those low humidity levels, which haven't recovered at all in the overnight period. So typically what we see, that the sun goes down, we get a little bit more moisture back. But with Santa Ana's, it just depletes all moisture content in our air. And Santa Clarita just didn't recover last night. So we're still at 7% relative humidity, and that's likely to go down as we get farther into the day or just stay right about the same. The entire Southland is dry. It's not just Santa Clarita. Look at Ontario. You're still in the single digits this morning as well. And then we have only 20s out into Long Beach. So we'll keep monitoring this and let you know if there's any wind changes. But again, it looks like the biggest wind change that we can see in our future right now will happen around your lunch hour and then really start to drop off as we're heading into about 5 o'clock this afternoon. Over to you guys.
Okay, thanks. And look at the fire. Well, shoot. The fire is burning right up to the 14 freeway, which is, of course, closed. Brandy's going to talk about this commute because the Antelope Valley line for Metro is usually something you think, okay, we can get around. They've closed bus bridges as a result of that line. So it's just very difficult all the way back to Lancaster.
That's right, Philip and Leslie. If you thought, okay, the 14's closed, I'm just going to take Metrolink. Well, unfortunately, Metrolink is tweeting out updates right now. We want to bring you the AV line 204 to Los Angeles is going to be holding at Lancaster because of the closures right now in Santa Clarita. They cannot make it through. Also, about 45 minutes ago, people who were trying to take train 200 from Lancaster down to Glendale, they said, nope, that's not going to happen either. And they were offering Uber vouchers as they sometimes do this, up to $50 as an alternate for people if there's any sort of issue. The problem is you cannot take an Uber down the 14 freeway right now because it's also closed. Now, I want to show you video that shows exactly the conditions that we saw overnight. This is what happened overnight. That is a freeway sign on the 14 when that fire jumped. So this is the condition that we've been dealing with over the last 4 hours now. Unbelievable. You're going to see the person in this car trying to drive through the 14 with fire all along one side, and then it jumped the line to the other side. So Philip and Leslie, this is the condition we're continuing to deal with this morning. This is why there's more evacuations. And unfortunately, if you live in Palmdale, Lancaster, Agua Dulce, there's not a way to come down and go to work today. You may just have to stay home on this Friday.
Yeah, good advice, Brandy. Thank you so much. So this fire has charred 4,000 acres, and I imagine that it's probably a lot more at this point. Once we get an update this morning, let's go back to Scott Reif, Air 7 HD. Scott.
Yeah, you're looking at the 14 freeway. This is south of Escondido Canyon Road, south of that Agua Dulce area. Fire units are setting up on both sides of the 14, and obviously it's not going to be reopened anytime soon. We'll open up a little bit and just show you the head of the fire. This would be the furthest to the northeast, if you will, along the 14. Now, if we continue to the right a little bit, you'll see Escondido Canyon Road, and they have shut down Soledad Canyon at Escondido Canyon Road. Continue to the right. There it is right there. There's a Agua Dulce Canyon Road and the 14, and then Soledad Canyon has been shut down also now. You can't get through on Soledad past Agua Dulce Canyon Road. We'll come back to the left. You still have a lot of folks just stranded on Soledad. They're turning them around at this point. This would be the head of the fire burning up in some pretty mountainous terrain. And as we continue to the south, you're going to see some flare-ups. Push into that one. Looks like that just started to flare up all of a sudden, and you see all the units that responded along the 14. They also want Soledad Canyon open so they can respond to some of these areas when we do get the flare-ups. But we'll tilt up and come down a little bit now, and we'll get down closer to where Soledad Canyon Road crosses the 14, and then those hot spots where John Gregory is and Alex is, and that's right down in that area. And I wanted to pick up that the yard once again. It will be we've been watching that burn in that construction yard. There's a lot of semis in there. There's some trailers, and when you're in kind of tight, you can see how windy it is. It looks like the wind changes from time to time. It was a lot heavier as far as the wind was concerned just a moment ago. But there's a lot of semis in there, and there's no protection right now. It looks like fire crews have decided there's other places they need to be that are more urgent. But those folks right there, I mean, it's really a bad spot to be. That's Soledad Canyon Road. Open up a little bit and go to the left. They were trying to turn people around. Now you're just stranded, and this is before Soledad gets all the way down to the 14. They'd like to get those folks out of there. They're really worried about them, and that's why they shut it down so much further to the north now. But certainly with the winds that we're experiencing, these folks are in jeopardy right now. If we get another jump on the other side of Soledad, firefighters are concerned about that. They want to get them out of there. They want to get structure protection in place. That right there, I believe, is Sugarloaf Court. If we push into that home, that's where Alex Cheney was. I think he might have had to have moved out so fire crews could get in there. That home was lost. As far as the fires right next to the homes, things look better than it did an hour ago. But that fire jumping the 14 to the south is a real concern.
Well, Scott, as you mentioned, Alex Cheney, let's just bring him in as your shot from above and find out if he's still on that Sugarloaf area with Sequoia Road. Because Alex, the last time we saw you, you had two homes that were on fire with one in the middle that wasn't. So what are you still in that same location, or did you move?
Philip and Leslie, good morning, and we are still in that same location, and the update is that the first home that we were showing you this morning, that front portion above the garage actually fell, so you can see quite a bit of debris on the ground. The flames picked up, and it was a terribly large noise when that began just to rip away from the top of that garage portion there, and you can see all sorts of debris on the ground there. We can still see some active flame ups coming from the top portion of the house. They're hitting it from water from the side of the house. They're not entering the home, but they are trying to pour that water inside that the other home that was on fire, just 2 doors down from us as well. Looks like that quick flame has been put out. We actually saw some firefighters actually up in the second floor of that home. But the one you're looking at right now, so that front portion you see kind of slanted there, actually tore away, and now it's looking like that top wall that you see of what would be the second floor is getting really flimsy right now. So I guess the biggest concern would be if that begins to fall, we would need to get out of here really quickly. I can see a helicopter coming around the back of the house. I'm not sure if that's a water helicopter, but still some active flare-ups happening right now from the second floor of this home. As you can see, massive debris as that broke away from the top portion of that garage. So we'll continue to stay on top of this. Philip and Leslie, back to you.
Alex, what happened to the other house that was on fire?
Well, it already had some fire damage. You could tell sort of the smoke and some of the black areas on the white paint from the exterior of the home, and then it came up with that fire on the side there, and then they were able to get away with the fire pretty quickly from that side.
If I could interrupt,
like just this house that you're.
Let me interrupt. Well, not that one. Wasn't there one to the right? As we look, there was one in the middle that was okay, and then as you pan to the right, there was another one that looked like it was starting to get up into the eaves.
We're heading over here. Okay. So, oh wow. So this is new. So this is, you can see we have some firefighters on top of the building here. I think they're really concentrated right now on the corner of that home there. That's where we saw that flare up just a few minutes ago in that last shot that we brought to you. So you can see those gentlemen on top of the building right now trying to figure out exactly what's burning from up there. They're removing those roof tiles right now because that's where that flare up was before. So that's where they are concentrating their efforts right now. We got gentlemen who are on top of the house. We got some inside there right now, and they're making sure they're removing what I would think to be fuel from the home as those roof tiles are dropping to the ground. So that's what's happening just 2 doors down.
But there's no visible flame at this point there, right?
No, not at this point, no. But I think they're just kind of removing any sort of potential fuels from over there. Well, we do have active flames at this house, once again, just 2 doors down. It's looking like that top wall, once again, from the second floor is getting really flimsy and really weak right now. So I think the number one concern would be should that break away from the rest of the home.
Yeah, if that once that collapses upon itself, it just ends up throwing too many embers in too many places. So, Alex, thank you very much.
That's right.
All right, so I guess we're going to Brandy now. So Brandy has more on the evacuations that are in place. Actually, she's not available at this point, so I can tell the producer in the booth she's not available. We'll stick with Alex's shot here and kind of look at things and see what's going on. But again, I think Alex's shot there is really indicative of what's going on, in the sense that you had one fire, which is obvious with a roof that's about to collapse, and then 2 doors down, just across the street, you have something up in the corner, which firefighters are trying to remove the ceiling tiles or the roof tiles so they can get to it, the shingles.
Right.
Which are fire retardant in many places. They're not going to catch on fire, hopefully.
But that shows you the difficulty in fighting this type of a fire and the challenges with those embers that are hopscotching through the neighborhood, and they just crop up in one area. Firefighters put their resources there, and then you have another area. It's so difficult to fight. Let's go to Eyewitness News reporter Leo Stallworth. Now, Leo was near, you were on the 14 freeway at one point, Leo, correct?
Leslie and Philip, I am exhausted. We have been on the 14 freeway since about 3:40 this morning, bogged down in horrific traffic, just inching forward like a turtle. We are now in off the freeway. Actually, we're in the area where the lanes have been closed here at Agua Dulce Canyon Road in the southbound lanes of the 14 freeway, and one lane is open, and this is for traffic to exit the freeway at the off ramp at Agua Dulce Road, and this is where folks are getting off. But prior to this, all of the lanes are open in the southbound lanes of the 14 freeway, but it is dense. It is an absolute nightmare. It is stop and go traffic all the way over to the shoulder. So even the shoulder lane is filled with traffic. And folks are frustrated, horns honking. We just had to grin and bear it because we're right there in the thick of it. We could not go any faster than we went, just for over 2 hours, bogged down in horrific traffic. It's just a mess. But folks obviously understand what's going on in the Santa Clarita Valley. Authorities, out of an abundance of caution, having to shut down a good chunk of the 14 freeway because of the tick fire and other fires burning in the Santa Clarita Valley. That fire jumping from one end of the 14 freeway to the other. It's just one heck of a firefight, as it was yesterday when this thing kicked off. On the other side of the freeway, some traffic issues as well. You can see some people just decided to park on the shoulder in the northbound lanes and just have coffee or have conversations. They've just shut it down. Some of these folks were trying to get to Santa Clarita, taking Sierra Highway, trying to go maybe the Angeles Crest, but nothing to no avail. So they just turned back, ended up dealing with this situation and pulling over even in the northbound lanes and just shutting it down and calling it a day. And for those of us stuck in this nightmare over here, you can see a lot of folks still inching forward, trying to make their way off of the freeway, obviously very frustrated. A lot of these folks, obviously commuters, trying to get to work in LA. They're not going to be able to do that. And some of them, obviously, a lot of these folks will spin around at the off-ramp and just turn and get into the northbound lanes and head back home. And you saw some of those folks on the shoulder of the freeway in the northbound lanes right now. They're just over there having conversations, probably trying to calm down. But folks, this is what you're going to have to deal with this morning. So those of you in the AV, play hooky today. Just stay home. It's not worth it getting in this mess. You're not going to go anywhere. You're just going to be frustrated. So just call it a day. Call your boss. They know what's going on. Most folks know what's going on in the Santa Clarita Valley. Say a prayer for those folks in the Santa Clarita Valley. They are under a cloud of fire right now. And hats off to those firefighters who are battling the blaze. I was in the thick of it with those firefighters yesterday, and one in Canyon Country and one section of the community that could have just been overrun by flames. But those firefighters came in, got knee deep in it, right next to those flames, battled those flames, pushed those flames back, preventing it from absolutely destroying a cul-de-sac community in Canyon Country where ABC7, where we were embedded yesterday with a lot of families just standing back in absolute terror, watching walls of flames coming towards us. And I thought when I finally got home and went to bed that I'd wake up this morning and we'd have the upper hand, but obviously not the case. The fire has just grown. And as you, Leslie, you and Philip mentioned, it's only 5% contained. So this is one heck of a firefight, obviously aided by an incredible swirling wind. But again, folks, this is the situation on the 14 freeway. Just a nightmare. You're only going to get to Agua Dulce before you have to exit the freeway, and you're done. And even when you exit the freeway, most folks are having to turn back around and get in the northbound lanes and just go home and call it a day. Leslie, Phillip, I'm going to send it back to you.
Okay, Leo, thank you. And, Leo talks about Santa Clarita Valley, Antelope Valley as well. But don't forget, this is also affecting the San Fernando Valley. All LAUSD schools in the San Fernando Valley are closed today due to air quality safety concerns caused by these fires. This is coming out from the LA Unified. We have several communities here. Roscommare, Topanga, Valley View, Wonderland Elementary, Community Day School, Devonshire, they're all closed. But again, primarily, all LAUSD schools in the San Fernando Valley are closed. So this is not just the Antelope Valley and Santa Clarita that are affected here.
All right, let's bring in John Gregory. He is still in the area of Sequoia near Arches. John.
And Leslie, that home continues to smolder behind me. The one home we've seen taken out by this fire so far. And it's still kicking off embers, too. I want to talk about the embers for a few seconds because a short time ago, some of those embers made it their way across the street, and there was a bush burning across the street, just to give you an idea of how dangerous the situation is and how quickly those embers can spread this fire. And you can see it continues to be a threat, even though firefighters have just hammered this home with water, and they've got into all the walls and tried to find all the fire and root it out. There's still fire burning in there, and that's the difficulty with these ember fires. They get up into the eaves, they get into the attic, they smolder, they spread, and once they make their way to the walls, it's a hunting expedition for firefighters, and they have to go in there and tear those walls down wherever they can see smoke and try and get in there with water. And this one's been going on all morning long. The wind continues to blow hard. That's fueling it as well and kicking up those embers some more. I see some air support coming in. I don't know if he's going to make a drop. I think he's just evaluating. right now. Most of the active flame behind these homes appears to be out. There are hot spots in the canyon, but we're not seeing the flames we saw earlier this morning, 20-foot flames, and at one point raging behind these homes. So overall, firefighters did an amazing job, but it does appear they've lost this home. Another home we saw suffered some damage, significant damage. It was another situation where embers got into the walls, and they had to go in there and start peeling off the layers to find the hot spots. And this is something they're going to be dealing with throughout the day as these embers kick up and the winds continue to blow. And it does feel like, at least in our location, we're seeing a bit of a wind shift. When we first arrived, we had the wind coming at us from behind the homes, and now it feels like it's coming straight down the street. So it's a different wind we're seeing. It may be localized because we're in some really rugged terrain out here, and the winds do tend to swirl. But another factor to consider in this firefight, we could see some shifts in wind, and that'll also change the fire behavior and affect how firefighters deal with this. A long day ahead, but here it looks like they have the upper hand finally. Still, though, they do have to monitor that one home behind us. We're live in Canyon Country. John Gregory, ABC7 Eyewitness News. Philip, I'll send it back to you.
All right, John, thank you. And as John was alluding to, I mean, these firefights can create their own weather. Leslie has talked about that as well. The shot that you're also seeing here is Alex Cheney's shot. You saw that the firefighters have basically taken a water cannon and just started to blast that home. And there are several homes in his area that will be at least damaged, maybe not destroyed by fire. But Scott Reif, who is in Air 7 HD, is above the 14 freeway, which is a total closure, and it's affecting so many different elements of the Southern California community, Scott, because Metrolink is affected. We can't get bus bridges around this area. So it really is, like Leo was saying, one of those days where you should probably just stay home and understand you're adding to the problem if you get out of there on the freeway.
Absolutely. You don't want to try the 14. I mean, if you're up in the Antelope Valley, don't think about it. What you're looking at is the 14 southbound from Escondido Canyon Road down to Agua Dulce Canyon Road, where they've closed it. Now, Leo was stuck on that. You could see how frustrated he was. Right there's Agua Dulce Canyon Road and the 14. They're going to turn you around, or they're going to force you off of Agua Dulce Canyon Road to Sierra Highway back north, or down to Soledad, but then you're going to have to go back north and east. So you don't want to get on that. If you're in the Antelope Valley area, you're in Lancaster, you got a couple of choices. You know, Angeles Forest to Angeles Crest, all the way out east, Pear Blossom to the I-15, or what I think would be best if I was in, say, Lancaster, the 138 to the 5 South. You're not going to sneak down through here any longer. We want to show you something that we looked at a moment ago. We got a report of a fire at this home right here, 31650 Springs Canyon Road. We'll push in on SkyMap. And when we looked at that 45 minutes to an hour ago, the homeowner had called, and look at the support that they got all of a sudden. We'll go to satellite view, and you can see why. They're very isolated up there. There's a dirt road to this home. It looks like the homeowner stayed, and now we'll come back out to the shot, and you can see the fire crews have responded with structure protection. As we open up, we're basically going south and to the west on your shot, and there's the line of fire that is a problem for that home up in there. They'll evacuate that person for certain, and then they'll stay there and try and save their home. But as we come down, we're basically taking the 14 south, if you will, and there's a pretty good row of flames, or there was a moment ago right along the 14 where fire crews had set up, and that's why it's not going to be reopened for some time. And then you get down here towards where Soledad Canyon is, and Soledad Canyon merges at the 14. A lot of those folks who got stuck on Soledad, if you push in there, they did get them through, but it's shut down now. You won't be able to make it past this junction where Soledad Canyon hits the 14. They're trying to get them out of here because basically they're just in the way. I mean, that's all it is. They didn't get it shut down in time way back at Agua Dulce Canyon Road, so you got a couple hundred vehicles on Soledad still stranded, but they're trying to get them out. And then there's what we've been concerned about, and that's that yard right there. It really has been smoldering now for a couple of hours, a lot of semis in there, a lot of fuel. If it would spread to one of those containers or to a truck, obviously it could really take off. And that shot there gives you an idea what the winds are doing. They're shifting around. That's not helpful either. So certainly travel, as you mentioned, Philip and Leslie, it's just not recommended. I think you've got a real good excuse if you're in the Antelope Valley to just stay home today and not even try to get to work.
Yeah, Scott, and on the right side of the screen, John shot, and it looks like a firestorm with all those embers just swirling around, and that is a particular difficulty with this. Brandy has been hard at work gathering information. Brandy, what do you have for us now?
Everybody know that if you have school closures you're dealing with today, because there's so many, we're posting a lot of this information on our website, abc7.com. We're also updating you on the other fires. We're following 4 right now burning in Southern California, not just up in Canyon Country. And of course, there were also power outages, a lot of power outages as we zoom in. We have a map here that we've posted on our website. If you're wondering, your power may be preemptively cut off. And it also shows areas as we zoom in here of Santa Clarita. The red areas are where the power is off right now. And this is the fire that we're following this morning, where you see so many of the outages. The orange areas you see are potential outages if SoCal Edison customers may have it preemptively cut off. You can see areas of Santa Clarita. You may have it cut off still potentially as the winds continue to be developing today. I want to zoom out here and go over to San Bernardino a little bit here, just because this is an area we've also been following so much. San Bernardino here, outages you see in red, and the orange, because this is the old water fire that sparked yesterday. And at last check, when we were checking in with them, it was only 30% contained. So they're still trying to grapple with that. I'm going to zoom back out, and so you can see more of Southern California. Los Angeles really doesn't have any threats, but as we go west now, towards Oxnard, towards Malibu. You see outages north of Camarillo. This is the Malibu area and parts of Ventura County. We've also wanted to keep you updated on the Pacific Palisades fire. That one is 75% contained right now. So, Philip and Leslie, it's not just Santa Clarita, even though it's very active right now with those embers you see live on your screen flying and catching homes on fire this morning, but there are potential still for so many other regions of Southern California that they're monitoring it, and power may get shut off again today.
All right. Thanks, Brandy. One thing to also be aware of, I mean, not only the fire, not only the wind, we're talking heat. We're talking the red flag warning is going to stay in effect through the evening, but heat advisories, Leslie Lopez. So the firefighters are going to have to deal with that. And then just everybody in Southern California, whether you're at the beaches, whether you're inland, you're going to be dealing with incredibly hot temperatures.
You know, you just said it, right? I mean, right now it's 77 degrees already, and the sun hasn't come up. It's 5:57. It's going to get hotter around Santa Clarita. By the time we're heading into the afternoon, it'll be 94 degrees today in Santa Clarita. We still expect to see very low relative humidity levels, 6 to 7%. Those northeast winds are going to stay about 20 miles per hour, and then we're also going to see those gusts about 30 to 35 till about noon. Right when we hit your lunch hour today, we're going to see this measurable great drop in wind velocities from noon to 5 o'clock, and you'll really notice it by about 5 o'clock this afternoon that those winds are much, much quieter. But unfortunately, it's not soon enough, right? I mean, we're looking at some very strong winds for the next couple of hours. I want to take you to tomorrow. Tomorrow, we are going to see cooler temperatures. We'll add in not much moisture, but a little bit more moisture. Relative humidity still, unfortunately, very dry, 7 to 10% through Santa Clarita. Northeast winds are still coming in at about 15 miles per hour, so there is a little reduction in wind speed. But then the gusts are still around 20 to 25. So again, that still makes the firefight difficult. So really, from 5 o'clock today on till about 5 a.m. tomorrow morning is those 12 hours that firefighters have a little bit of an opportunity to try to get advantage of this fire. Unfortunately, on Sunday, even though we have some cooler temperatures and more moisture coming in, 26% relative humidity, the winds are still very strong. 20-mile-per-hour winds on Sunday. We're looking at gusts of about 30 to 35 still. So it's going to be a firefight. And again, I really hope that, you know, between the hours of 5 p.m. today to 5 a.m. tomorrow morning, firefighters can try to do all they can. I mean, they're working so hard, and these conditions just really don't help them out at all. So really at a disadvantage in terms of those weather conditions, not only for today, but I mean, really throughout the weekend. We're going to see sporadic bursts of winds coming back and forth for at least the next 72 hours. Now, winds will eventually, I wanted to show you, quiet down. They're starting to quiet down a little bit just for the time being right now. That's very much a short-lived little respite that we're getting here. I want to mention that we're probably going to see another burst of wind here shortly within the next 30 to an hour, because I don't see these 30-mile-per-hour gusts really changing all that much till we get to right about your lunch hour when they drop down to 17. And then here, if you want to look at the clock up here, I'm going to put it in motion again. You're going to see these bright colors really start to diminish and go down. And that's about 5, 6 o'clock this afternoon. And then from that point forward, we're really looking pretty good till we get into tomorrow morning. So firefighters do have an opportunity there. Here we go. Some more winds coming in tomorrow in the afternoon. So really just hoping for the best there. Okay, so as we're going to make our way, I just want to show you the newest information from the particular weather station that I've been monitoring right near that tick fire. It's still around 12-mile-per-hour northeast winds and then gusts of about 21 miles per hour. That's the lowest velocity I've seen here this morning. I just don't think it's going to last very long. I think it's just a little lull that we're looking at right now. Temperatures are still about 76 to 77 degrees, and then humidity levels still remain at 7% through Santa Clarita, and we're still looking at very dry conditions throughout the entire Southland here today. This red flag warning is going to go all the way through this evening till 10 o'clock tonight. We have a high wind warning that'll go through about noon, so again, right after your lunch hour, we should see a nice decline. And then their heat advisory in this orange color all throughout the Southland through today. And temperatures, again, Santa Clarita, you're still dealing with some warm weather. More to come in a full forecast. We'll let you know how the rest of this weekend, then the week that follows, is going to go. But there might even be some rain to look forward to next week. It's a weak chance at this point, so we won't get too excited, but we'll be hopeful. Over to you guys.
All right, Les, thanks very much. And speaking of that weather, Philip and I were just talking, and it's worth noting that LAUSD in the San Fernando Valley, which is far away from the fire, but you're dealing with the air and the dirty air and the particulates in the air, which are especially bad for people, especially people with sensitive dispositions with asthma and things like that. So they have to be concerned about that as well.
Yep. So be aware this could affect you, even though it is happening Canyon Country, Santa Clarita area. Right now at 6 o'clock, we're about 2.5 hours into the live team coverage of the tick fire that is burning in Santa Clarita. It's not the only fire, but it is a large fire. It's burned nearly 4,000 acres and is only 5% contained.
And overnight, that fire jumped the 14 freeway, which is shut down right now in both directions between Golden Valley and Escondido Canyon. At least 6 homes were burned during the fire yesterday. And this morning, we have seen more homes damaged by fire. And John Gregory's live shot and Alex Cheney's live shot, we watched as it happened.
Yeah, a couple were burned significantly, and then there would be damage to a couple of others, having to open up the roof and get into there to try to save as much as they could. But new evacuations were also ordered this morning for the Sand Canyon area from Antelope Valley Freeway to Placerita Canyon Road in Santa Clarita. That's south of the 14. That's the area you talked about when it jumped the 14. They want people out of there. Also, the area east of Rolling Hills Avenue and north of Diver Street in Canyon Country. These evacuations are in addition to the area north of the 14, which is, tens of thousands of people who were told to leave yesterday.
And dozens of schools and 2 colleges are closed because of the smoke and the extreme fire danger, with that red flag warning remaining in place.
Now, we have crews on the ground. We've seen Leo, we've seen Alex, and John Gregory has been right in the middle of a firefight where they tried to save a home, but it was very difficult. And John, we're seeing those gusty winds. When we come to you right now, it's amazing to watch the changing conditions for you.
Yeah, Philip, we moved to the backyard of that home that was lost because the embers were kicking up again. There's a lot of brush down here. Most of it's burned away, but there's enough of it left. When that wind hits it, it really flares up, and firefighters have been hitting it over and over again, trying to get it out. And every time they think they've got it out, it'll flare up again. You can see they got the hose on it again. And it's just such a difficult battle they're facing, and the concern is those embers will spark another fire somewhere else. You can see perhaps above us the home that was lost. It does appear to be a complete loss. That's the back side of it. But this has just been a stubborn fight for these guys. And as I look across this valley behind these homes, I see hot spots everywhere. Just all sorts of embers out there that could cause more problems later today. I don't know how well the camera's going to pick it up, but boy, it's going to be a challenge, especially as daybreak arrives. Of course, it's going to be warming up, and of course, the winds are continuing too. So it's a bad combination for firefighters, but they're here. They continue to attack this fire. Every time it comes back, they hit it again. And I think they're going to be here for a while longer because it doesn't look like it's done yet. So it's going to be a long day.
Okay, John, thanks very much. Let's go on over to Alex Cheney. And Alex, behind you, when last saw you, the firefighters were working on that burned out home. What's going on now?
You guys not see our camera standing there next to you?
This water cannon, they have been now for at least the last few minutes. But as you take a look at the top floor of that home, I've been talking about that front wall. You can see a little bit of a crack now up in the upper right-hand side. I spoke to a firefighter just a moment ago who expects that to fall really at any time now. We also saw some areas in the front patio of the home, a lot of debris falling over there. You can see some active water being sprayed as well. So we see some flare-ups happening in the garage right now. So the situation not completely wrapped up here yet, much better than when we first arrived. But this home is still, I don't know about a complete loss, but incredibly damaged. And it's looking like that top floor is still getting more flimsy as we head into the afternoon. The winds are getting really strong. The blowing around a lot of the water. We have some smoke, ember. We have a little bit some paper flying around in the air right now. So it's a really developing scene as we're standing here in front of this house. We're not seeing some flames, maybe just into the over right-hand corner of the house right now. But things not looking good over here at Philip and Leslie.
Well, Alex, one of the things that we're noticing with John Gregory is as soon as he gets away from the protection of the homes, the wind really is obvious. Are you seeing the same kind of condition if you happen to go to the backyard of these homes where it's more exposed? I mean, it just seems like where we're looking at right now, there's a measure of calm, but I can't imagine that's the condition as soon as you step behind those homes.
If we could bring you window vision, that would be great because it's incredibly gusty right now. I know you can't see it, but it's maybe about 25 miles an hour. I haven't gone into the backyard of the home because I don't want to disturb these firefighters as they're doing their work. And it may seem calm, but it's certainly not. These winds have been strong the entire time that we've been here for just about the last hour. And so now those firefighters are walking around to the back side of the home right now to kind of figure out what's going on. And it's a developing situation right now.
Can we also take a look at some of those others? You had another home that was being watched very closely as they opened up the roof to try to get some of the embers out of there, make sure that it didn't spread.
That's right.
So that one looks like they've made a stop there. Is that accurate to say?
That is an accurate description right now. You could say that it's stopped, and then they blew out that side on the seat. You can see that supporting beam in there. That's where that little bit of a flare-up was happening just a moment ago. There's some of the insulation from the walls is now hanging out of the home as well. At first, I was afraid it may have been somebody stuck in there. Fortunately, it was not. But that flare-up has stopped over there, Philip.
Well, you know what, Alex? As you're standing right next to it. You want to think about how quickly people listen to the evacuation orders. I see somebody with their motorcycle just right there next to you. And you just let's get out. I'm assuming that maybe they took it out of the garage as well because that would be fuel in the event that something happened. But, I mean, you're not seeing anybody in the neighborhood, are you?
No. It's everybody here is just emergency vehicles and, people working the scene. It's not too many residents are home right now.
They heeded the warning.
Sure
okay,
did.
and just hopefully they had their 6 Ps and they got their photos and their pictures and their documents and they just got out
on out of there.
That is quite the scene.
All right, let's go to Leo Stallworth. Leo, where are you?
Leslie Phillip, I'm in the southbound lanes of the 14 freeway at the Agua Dulce Canyon Road off-ramp, and this is where traffic is being diverted off of the freeway. You can see folks now moving off of the freeway. They're being forced off of the freeway. This is where it's shut down from Agua Dulce all the way into the Santa Clarita Valley, and obviously the shutdown because of what's happening in the Santa Clarita Valley right now, which just absolutely breaks your heart. Leslie and Phillip, I've been listening to you folks talking about homes lost and our hearts and prayers are just with those folks in that area as this fire continues to rage out of control. And again, traffic here being diverted off of the freeway. My photographer and I, James, were stuck in the traffic, which is just about a mile just up the road from us. That's where all of the lanes are open, but it is just bogged down. We were stuck in that traffic for more than 2 hours, very frustrated, with a lot of other frustrated folks on the highway. A lot of those folks on the highway obviously not realizing that they were going to be diverted off of the freeway and having to get off here at the Agua Dulce off-ramp. A lot of them getting off here. They're having to spin right back around, get into the northbound lanes, and probably go back home. So earlier we were talking to you folks, and we were telling you probably a good idea if you live in the Antelope Valley and you need to commute. This is not the day to do it. If you've got a job in L.A., close to L.A., you're probably going to get to play hooky today. You need to call your office and let them know you probably can't make it because there are not too many alternate routes you can take to even get around this mess. It is just the traffic is dense everywhere. And as Santa Clarita burns, it's out of abundance of caution that authorities have shut this freeway down to make sure that they protect you and that they allow the firefighters to do the incredible job that they are doing to save those communities that are still threatened by this fire. I was in the thick of that firefight yesterday, obviously covering it, had my mic in hand, watching those firefighters go toe-to-toe with walls of flames coming towards communities. We were in a cul-de-sac in Canyon Country, and we saw folks standing out on the street, some of them with their water hoses, some of them just praying that their homes would be protected, and in some cases the fire came all the way down into people's backyards. We saw palm trees just explode into flames, and we saw firefighters standing right there battling those flames, preventing those flames from attacking those homes and destroying those homes. But again, this firefight, as you, Leslie and Philip have mentioned, it continues, only 5% contained. I was really hoping that when I went to bed last night after covering the fire for hours, that I'd wake up this morning and hear the good news that the chunk of the firefight is over, but that's not the case. And obviously, that's probably because of the swirling, erratic winds. Yesterday, it was a ferocious winds. Today, the winds are kicking around, swirling around. So it's just a devil of a firefight that continues. And you folks in the Antelope Valley who are frustrated, you can't get on the freeway, get where you need to be. Please understand that these firefighters are doing what they can to protect the Santa Clarita Valley, and out of an abundance of caution and safety, have to shut that freeway down, folks, and you just got to pause for a minute and, think beyond the frustration like we had to do this morning, sitting in our news truck for over 2 hours trying to get through the maze of traffic just to get where we are right now, where it's you can just see it's shut down, and this is where folks are getting off the freeway. Leslie, Phillip, I'm going to send it back to you.
Okay, thank you, Leo. So we see Leo's shot there on the ground, and then look at Air 7 above, and here's an addition to this. Okay, think back all the way to Lancaster. Antelope Valley Line 204 to Los Angeles is holding in Lancaster because of track closures between Vincent Grade and Via Princesa, and then they can't even do bus bridges around the incident because of what you're looking at on the 14. So let's go over to Brianna now. Brianna, you have the unenviable task of trying to show alternate routes, and I just don't know that they exist.
Yeah, Philip, well, the ones that do exist are going to take a really long time. I mean, we're talking about tight, small highways. And it's just going to take a really long time, a long commute this morning. You know, we see both lanes of the 14 shut down. And, you know, this is the highway that most people from Lancaster and Palmdale take to get into Los Angeles. And it's just not going to be the case. It's shut down from some areas of Canyon Country, last reported at Golden Valley, and then all the way up to Agua Dulce. And so there are not many options. And the ones that are there are just going to take a really long time because one of the options is going to be Pear Blossom, very few lanes. And if you could just imagine the amount of people trying to get on that coming out of Palmdale and Lancaster to take that to the 5, because do not plan on taking the 14 anyway, because the Sierra Highway, you know, the roads that go along that section of the 14 are also closed. And the Pear Blossom Highway is just going to be a mess this morning. We're already right now out of Palmdale and Lancaster looking at close to a 2-hour commute. It's about 6:15 right now, and as we get closer to 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, it's just going to keep getting longer and more backed up. And so we are looking at it taking a couple hours for you to get out of there. Another option is Angeles Forest Highway, and that is also going to take a very long time. And to keep in mind, too, anyone traveling out of Santa Clarita, taking the 5 southbound, trying to get out of Santa Clarita, all those people in Canyon Country now traveling through side streets trying to get over to the 5 South too. So you can expect that to get backed up and just allow for some extra time there leaving from Santa Clarita as well, because many people are going to be traveling through Santa Clarita, going to the 5 South to try and get on the freeway there. Philip, Leslie, over to you guys.
Okay, Brianna. And in addition to those traffic issues, they're also dealing with a number of school closures. Brandy is here with that.
Yeah, 6:15 right now, Philip and Leslie, and this is the time when parents are getting the kids ready for school. Unfortunately, Santa Clarita, most of the schools are closed today. You're not going to be able to go. I want to go to our website here, abc7.com, and this is where we posted so many of the different closures for you. If you would want to check them out, you don't have time to listen right now. We have listed them all here. William Hart school districts all closed. I mean, we're talking about the high schools there. Golden Valley, Hart, also West Ranch, Saugus, Valencia. They are closed today. The middle schools as well. Newhall School District, all schools now closed because of that fire there, the tick fire. Saugus Union Elementary, that school district closed. Castaic Union also closed today because there was a fire also in that region yesterday. COC, if you go to College of the Canyons, closed. Moore Park College closed. Cal Arts also not having school today. The Department of Catholic Schools for the Archdiocese of Los Angeles as well. Now, a lot of that just has to do with Santa Clarita. I'm going to scroll back up here because all San Fernando Valley schools that are part of LAUSD are closed today as well, including Community, Roscomore, Topanga Valley, Valley View, Wonderland Elementary as well. Going west over into Malibu, there's a lot of schools in Malibu. Ventura County, Fillmore Unified, also closed. And if there isn't a fire burning there right now, it's because of the fire danger, the air quality. They just aren't taking any chances. For the full list here, again, it's on our website, abc7.com. Back over to you, Philip and Leslie.
Okay, thanks for the school closures. Let's get back to the firefight itself and what the conditions are like out there right now. John Gregory is live. John, have you moved behind those houses again? Because it looks like the wind has intensified.
Yeah, Philip, we are behind the homes again. We're about to get some sunlight here, and I want to see what impact it has on the weather conditions. Normally winds pick up around sunrise. I can't imagine it getting much worse than this because it's really blowing right now. That one home lost behind us there. And the wind is the reason why that home continues to burn. And you can just see it from this angle that the wind is getting in there and it is just fueling that fire and giving it new life every time they try and knock it down with water. And that's why this is such a stubborn blaze, and it really shows the difficulty in fighting fires in these conditions. And at some point, I'd like to hopefully see this valley below us, because as I look out, I can see so many hot spots, and we're hoping to get some daylight to get a better sense of the challenge ahead. But it looks like it's going to be a difficult situation for firefighters because of the wind, because of the embers, and you can really feel the wind back here. It's much more intense. We were talking about how on the front side of these homes, they kind of act like a windbreak, and you get back here and you get the full force of the wind hitting you, and it's all over the place and very erratic, and it's pretty intense at times too. You can feel it almost knocking you over is how strong it is. So this is going to continue through the day, keep in mind, and for firefighters, it's going to be a challenge throughout the day as well. We did lose one home in this neighborhood. One other home suffered minor damage. In both cases, we believe it was a case of the embers getting up into the eaves of the home, and once it got up in there, it got into the attic and started to smolder. When we first arrived on scene, the fire was burning on the second story, and then as firefighters started hitting it, it made its way down into the walls. And so that was the situation they were dealing with. And the other home we saw as well was a case where the embers got into the walls and they started peeling off the outer layers to find that hot spot. So it's a very difficult, tedious work. And it just seems like every time they hit this fire with water, it just comes back. And again, it's because of the wind. The wind gets, look at that scene right there. You can just see the wind is howling through those open windows. And that is allowing this fire to continue to rage. And every home that burns like this in these conditions is going to be a challenge like that. So they can't pull all the structure protection units away till they get it completely out. A lot of them have moved on, but some are staying, obviously, and they have to because of the challenge that remains. And boy, that really illustrates the problem. You see those embers flaring up, and you see the wind moving through that structure and just fueling it and continuing it to find more fuel to burn, even though they've dumped a tremendous amount of water on it. But that's the latest here in Canyon Country. John Gregory, ABC7 Eyewitness News. I'll send it back to you.
All right. And John, you walked over to that hillside and you could see it's still smoldering, but they have done water drops, as you mentioned, on that hillside throughout the morning, have they not?
Yeah, Leslie, when we first arrived on scene, they had a helicopter doing night drops, and that pilot made some amazing drops. You saw one of them, I think. And that really helped. I think he saved a lot of homes, that helicopter pilot this morning. It made a huge difference. They obviously couldn't save all the homes, but that was a big reason why we didn't see more damage or destruction up here. They had that helicopter doing the night drops. And it'd be great if we had more of them, but we're certainly happy to see what we do have. And it makes a huge change for firefighters battling these fires at night in these winds. To have some air support, it makes a huge difference for them, yeah.
Well, the one thing that we know is that once the sun fully comes up, we're going to be able to intensify the air firefight. So let's go from John Gregory to Leslie Lopez. We're still looking from Air 7 HD. But Leslie, we're probably, 30 minutes away from full sunrise where we might be able to get out there and take a look at things?
Yeah, yes, of course. And, it'll really give us a good idea as far as the smoke plume. It's going to be moving in the northeasterly direction because that's where the winds are going to be moving. But how flat that smoke plume lies to the surface really is a good indication in particular geographic locations like Santa Clarita, how bad those winds are. Now, we do have a weather station out there in Santa Clarita that is monitoring some of those wind gusts for us. And right now it looks like it's been between 25 to 35 mile per hour gusts for at least the last several hours through about 11 p.m. last night till just now here this morning. So still strong gusty winds through the area. We anticipate those strong gusty winds going on through this morning and then into the early afternoon. But then they calm down, and I'll show you what time they calm down really, really significantly. Red flag warnings are going to go on through about 10 o'clock tonight. We have a high wind warning that'll go through about noon, and then really noon onward is when we're going to see those winds start to diminish, and that's when the firefighters at least get to return to a little bit more of an advantage. This weekend, unfortunately, we don't have the best of news. I mean, it is going to get better. We're going to get rid of this red flag warning today. But as we're going to progress this afternoon, we still have very dry humidity levels. And that's unfortunate because when you see those little embers flying in John Gregory's shot there, with the relative humidity levels so low, those little embers can ignite very quickly. And then, of course, the rapid spread of fire because of the strong gusty winds that we're seeing. We're still seeing about 30 to 35 through that Santa Clarita area. Tomorrow, we're going to focus on tomorrow and then also Sunday because we know it's going to be a very long firefight for these firefighters. So they're going to deal with 88-degree temperatures, still looking at relative humidity levels around 7 to 10%. Still those northeast winds, they are a little quieter, but not much. We still have gusts of about 20 to 30 miles per hour. And then on Sunday, we'll drop those temperatures down, bring in a little bit more moisture. But unfortunately, those winds are shifting now out of the east, and we're still looking at 30 to 40 mile per hour gusts. So they're actually getting stronger through Santa Clarita. So again, even though the temperature cools off, we get a little moisture. Unfortunately, the winds are going to be the biggest factor with any fire because they fan flames, they move flames around very freely. And so for the next several days, we're probably going to see the firefight continue. But again, we get a little bit of an edge. And I want to show you the timing of the edge that we have today. Right about 8 to 9 o'clock, we still have those 30 mile per hour winds, so not changing a whole lot at 9 o'clock this morning. Finally, at about noon, we see those winds drop. You'll notice that the brighter colors really start to diminish between noon and 5 p.m. today, and that's when the firefighters really have an opportunity to try to gain a little bit more of an edge on this fire. It's going to be tough, though. We're going to continue with winds picking up again on Saturday and Sunday, and so for the next couple of days, we're going to see a very, very much a fire weather elevated danger. We have relative humidity right now at that particular weather station where John Gregory is at, very close by. 21 mile per hour gusts coming in right now. Relative humidity still down to 7%. And then as we're going to get you through the weekend, because I haven't given you that 7-day yet, we'll finally get right back to Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, and we'll see those 70s. And then we get back the moisture. Then we get the recovery. So really, it's Monday that we have to look forward to. It's going to take some time to get there. Unfortunately, 3 days of gusty winds, but no red flag warnings. Valley's Inland Empire, it's 96 today, 90 tomorrow, still very warm. Sunday, we have 77, still looking at those North Canyon winds or East Canyon winds shifting around there, around 30, and then we'll drop those temperatures down, bring back more favorable conditions. For the beaches, it'll be 91. The beach communities are going to be very hot. It's very dry in some of these beaches too today, and eventually we'll see the marine layer return, and then hopefully that's Monday. Mountains, 70, and unfortunately those mountains have been seeing some of the strongest gusts. Right near the Ventura Mountain communities, I clocked a gust of 59 miles per hour just above Moore Park. So, I mean, we have even stronger gusts here in the Southland than what we're dealing with in Santa Clarita. And then over into the high deserts, it's 82. Overnight lows into the 30s. We'll drop it on down to 67 degrees by Monday. So, again, 3 days of winds, guys. 3 days. So we have more to really battle here. And fortunately, those embers are moving around very freely. We'll keep you updated and monitored. But again, for today, right about your lunch hour to 5 o'clock, those wind velocities should diminish pretty well.
Well, that'll be a nice break for the firefighters where, you know, you've got the sun up and fully able to aggressively fight this from the air. And then they also get a break with the wind, which clearly plays a factor in how they're able to fight this fire. Now, this is from the L.A. County emergency area that we wanted to show you some of these evacuations that are in place. If you notice the stretch right there above the 14, that was issued yesterday. That is an area that is an evacuation order from yesterday. This is LA County emergency information. Now, the area, the largest area there just south of the 14, that was from this morning. That came in this morning about 3:17. And while you can't really see it, you notice that little sliver there just on the bottom of the screen. That is Placerita Canyon Road. That is also an area that was evacuated yesterday. Now, there's a warning area that's the yellow. So the areas that are red are an evacuation order. The yellow is a warning. But the big point that we're trying to make is that fire jumped the 14, and they wanted that area south of the 14. It's a very large area. They want people out of that area. We talked to Scott Reif earlier. A large part of that is so that they have access to all of these areas for the firefighters. But again, you saw the 14 freeway. You saw all of the areas. It's hard to get out of there, so they want to get ahead of this.
Right. And you have an order, and then you have a warning. An order, absolutely leave. And a warning, be ready to leave. Always get your belongings together, important medications that you have, pictures that you want, and be ready to leave. And feel free to leave. You don't have to wait until the order comes into effect.
Yeah, that was one of the things we found earlier. LA County Fire telling people, if you see flames approaching your house, go ahead and leave. You don't have to wait. You don't have to wait.
Yeah. Let's go to Alex Cheney right now. Alex is in a neighborhood where we have seen a few homes engulfed. Alex.
Yeah, Philip and Leslie, good morning. We're actually just right around the corner and down the street from where we were before. We saw a really large flare-up, and so that, of course, attracted our attention to over here. So right now, there's that flare-up. It is up in this canyon area here. It's a very slanted, I would say, about a 45-degree grade as you try to head to the top. So a lot of this brush really caught on fire within the last few minutes, and they put it out. There were several helicopter drops of water in the area to make sure all those flames began going down. They ran a hose from the fire truck and then brought it all the way up into this very slanted canyon area. You can see hopefully some of those burnt embers from on the top. They're trying to defend those two homes up there as well, and also just the house. We're in a backyard of a home here, and so they're trying to make sure that none of those flames make it into the area as well. It was really rather frightening just a moment ago. We didn't know if another house had caught on fire. We didn't know. We just didn't know, and so fortunately it's just some brush in between the two houses, and is not another structure on fire, but there's at least about 10 firemen right now trying to make sure that there are no more flare-ups. A helicopter came by, put it out, came back up. Another helicopter came by, put it out, then came back up a little bit, and finally that final one really made those flames go down. So fortunately right now, looking like there's not yet another house in this neighborhood that's been committed to flames. Philip and Leslie.
All right. Alex, thank you. And from Alex's shot, you can also see that shot there to the left as well with active fire burning with so many homes. Leo Stallworth, we've got Air 7 as well. So this is team coverage of this fire. Because it's so spotty in nature, it is all over the place. And one of the major issues is going to be the commute. We've talked about it a lot, but you can't just shut down the 14 freeway with people living in the Antelope Valley trying to get to downtown and just have no impact to people. Lancaster and Palmdale, I mean, they're not really directly affected by the fire, but those people are trying to get to work, and they just can't. Leo Stallworth is live as well, telling us what he saw. And, Leo, you can really relate to a lot of these folks because it took you over 2 hours just to get to your location, and you live up in the Antelope Valley.
Well, Philip, Leslie, I cannot tell you how frustrated we were just sitting in that. I can't even say stop and go because there was really no go. It was just stop. We were just stuck on the freeway for a couple of hours, and it was just very frustrating. And not only for us, obviously for everyone on the freeway. And you can look right here at now where this is the Agua Dulce on-off ramp here in the southbound lanes of the 14 freeway, and this is where traffic is being diverted off of the freeway. Now, here's probably what's very frustrating for a lot of these commuters. Some of these folks did not know that the freeway was shut down. So they got up this morning, got dressed for work, hopped on the freeway, and boom, they're being stopped in their tracks and being diverted, turned around, and they're having to go get back in the northbound lanes and go straight home. So very frustrating. One more thing I want to point out here, folks. We saw some folks shooting over into the shoulder and just ripping it down the road, and lots of horns honking. That's probably not a good idea to do, folks. I know some of you are frustrated, but heading into the shoulder and blasting it down the road is not a smart idea. Everybody's going to have to pack a lot of patience and just be cool. And as Leslie and Philip and even Scott Reif have mentioned numerous times, if you're in the AV and you need to commute and get to work, you're going to probably have to play hooky today. There's not too many alternate routes you can take that's not going to be really frustrating. Leslie and Philip, let's send it back to you.
Okay, Leo, thank you very much for that. Well, it is now 6:30 in the morning, and you're watching our continuous live team coverage of the tick fire burning in Santa Clarita.
Yeah, the fires burned nearly 4,000 acres. That is an official estimate. It could certainly be more because it is only 5% contained.
Yes, overnight this fire jumped to the 14 freeway, which is shut down right now. You saw Leo standing there and reporting from there. It shut down in both directions between Golden Valley and Escondido Canyon, and we are seeing more and more traffic backed up on that freeway. At least 6 homes were burned during the fire yesterday, and this morning we have seen more homes damaged by the fire.
New evacuations were ordered for this morning. We showed you that map just a few moments ago from the Sand Canyon area, from the Antelope Valley Freeway to Placerita Canyon Road and Santa Clarita. Also the area east of Rolling Hills Avenue and north of Diver Street in Canyon Country. It is a large swath. This is the new evacuation orders, which are south of the 14 because of the jumping of the freeway. That has really affected, and this is in addition to the tens of thousands of people who were told to leave yesterday.
Yeah, and dozens of schools and 2 colleges are also closed because of the smoke and extreme fire danger that includes all LAUSD schools in the San Fernando Valley, as well as all 4 Malibu schools in Santa Monica, Malibu USD.
And much of that is due to the air quality and the fact that they just need to be erring on the side of safety. So that's the good news. Brandy Hitt joins us now live in studio with some video that maybe we haven't seen at this point.
Yeah, brand new video just into the newsroom here, Philip, from Michael Dubrin with LA County Fire. These are the airdrops over the 14 freeway. You can see a little bit in the background here that they were making overnight. This is LA County Fire. You can see the thick smoke, the flames, and they just tweeted out this footage here of what they're experiencing with these overnight airdrops. It'll continue to loop here, and you can see the roadways there, the flames in the background, and the big concern, of course, the winds, the spot fires from the embers in the corner. But LA County Fire has been working nonstop to try and contain this tick fire, and they're now just sharing some of the video of what they've experienced. It's really difficult for them to see in many of these conditions, a dangerous endeavor, but they're continuing to make those water drops for structure protection and also to try to set up a perimeter around this.
Okay, Brandy, thank you very much. And John Gregory is at Arches and Sequoia. He has been watching the firefighters on the front lines as they are trying to douse homes that became fully engulfed, and the winds are really gusting there now, John.
Oh, Leslie, the wind has been intense all morning long, but when you get behind these homes, you get a better sense of just how strong it's been blowing and how big the challenge is. There's that home. It will not go out, and it's because of this wind just getting into that structure and really fueling that fire, driving it through every piece of flammable material, it seems. Firefighters are on scene. They have been dumping water on it for hours now, but it just continues to burn, and you can see the embers just billowing off the roof of the structure. And of course, those embers are now making their way across the neighborhood. Earlier, I saw spot fire across the street start, and it didn't start in like dry material. It looked like it started in a green, lush bush. Just to tell you how dry it is out here, and the problem down here below us, we still have some brush, and every once in a while this kicks up again too. So there are hot spots everywhere firefighters are dealing with. I've seen them put out this hot spot 3 times this morning. A few minutes ago it flared up again, so it's going to continue to be a problem. And as I look out over this valley below us, I see hot spots everywhere, dozens of them across the horizon there. Of course, we'll get a better view when the sun comes up. I also see two airships, two helicopters patrolling the area, looking perhaps for areas to do a water drop. Those helicopters came in tremendous help earlier this morning. They put out some fires right next to some homes, and we think they saved some homes in those drops. And of course, they weren't able to save all of them. This is the only structure we've seen that's a complete loss. And certainly sad to see this, but they've done a great job of protecting the rest of the homes. And firefighters have continue their structure protection efforts out here as well. But the wind, look at this. It keeps kicking up. It's probably getting a little stronger with sunrise. Usually does. And there's only so much you can do in these conditions if you're fighting a fire, especially if it's heading straight at you. And sometimes firefighters have to worry about their own safety as well. So it is going to be a long morning. The battle continues, and we, of course, will be covering it as well. We're live in Canyon Country. John Gregory, ABC7 Eyewitness News. I'll send it back to you.
John, but before we let you go, on the right or on the left there is Air 7 HD. But what I want to ask you about, you described the sun coming up. Earlier this morning, that neighborhood is really without power. You couldn't see anything if it wasn't lit by the fire, in a sense. Can you tell us a little bit what it's like now that you're able to at least actually start seeing what's going on around you?
Yeah, visibility was really difficult this morning when we came into this neighborhood. All the lights are out, power's out. The only thing that guided us were the emergency vehicle lights and, of course, the fire. It was easy to see where the big problem was, and we just went to the hot spot, and it was pretty easy to find out where we needed to be. It'll be a much different situation once we get daybreak. It's still fairly dark out here, and I've got these tinted lenses on, which don't help. But, yeah, you can see the horizon now. We're getting a better sense of what it looks like out here. And so we'll need to do a little surveying, Philip, to get a sense of what the neighborhood looks like and how it fared in this. From what we can tell, this structure was a loss. 2 doors down, they had a lot of damage. But that's all we've seen, and that's great news for these folks, I think, considering what they're dealing with.
You know what's fascinating to me, John, is even as you stood there talking just now, you're seeing the horizon change second to second to second as the sun begins to come up, and that is going to be such a factor when they can really get the air fight going. Even though they did great work at night, once that sun comes up, John, it's going to be a big difference.
Oh yeah, it's a huge factor to have the super scoopers up there, the big DC-10, all those helicopters. They have a couple of helicopters that can do the night drops, but not nearly what they can do in daytime conditions. And it's a huge difference. We see it over and over again on these fires, and we'll see the air support start coming in the next couple hours, I would think.
Yeah, so everybody has high hopes for them to be able to beat this thing back when the sun fully comes up. John, thank you very much for that. Let's go on over to Brianna Ruffalo. She is focusing on the traffic and the alternate routes because of that 14 freeway being closed. Brianna.
Morning. If you are leaving from Lancaster or Palmdale, just try not going to work today if you can, because it is just going to be a mess out there and really just going to cause more issues. We've been talking about it this morning, and because the 14 is such a major highway that everyone leaving from Lancaster, Palmdale mostly take this highway to get down into Los Angeles to go to work. We know a lot of people commute from this area, and it's already a mess out there. We have the 14 closed for some sections of Canyon Country all the way up to Agua Dulce. Last reported between Golden Valley Road and Agua Dulce. We've seen the 14 is just a parking lot. They're trying to get people off the highway before it's shut down. And so Sierra Highway is even closed. A lot of people might be trying to take alternate routes around it, and it's just not going to happen. So really, your only alternatives are Angeles Forest Highway or Pear Blossom, the 138. And you're going to have to take that out to the 5 because the 14 is shut down. And we're already looking at a commute close to 2 hours. And as we really get into the thick of traffic hour, we're looking at a couple hours. I think it's going to take much longer than that because it's such a tight highway, too. We have very few lanes for people to try and get through. And the amount of people most likely trying to get through work through those areas, it is just going to be jam-packed. So if you can, try to stay home today because it's going to be a mess out there, and especially the 5 South. if you're heading out of Santa Clarita, think about all the people leaving from Canyon Country, taking side streets through Santa Clarita, needing to hop on the 5 South to try and get to work today, try and get into Los Angeles. We know there's a lot of people out there commuting. And so the 5 South most likely going to be more backed up than it would normally be for this time of morning. And we know it would normally be very backed up. So with all the people from Canyon Country trying to go around and hopping on the 5 South, it's just going to be even worse. So very bad traffic conditions coming out of the Santa Clarita Valley today, or from Lancaster or Palmdale. It's really just going to be a very long commute. Doesn't matter where you're coming from and which way you're going to take. It's going to be a long one out there. Philip, Leslie, over to you guys.
Okay, Brianna, thank you very much for that. And if you're just joining us now, we continue our team coverage of the tick fire and other fires in the area. But the tick fire is the most pressing one at this point. 10,000 structures are still threatened. 4,000 acres have been charred. It is 5% contained, and those are numbers from a while ago. I imagine that those will change shortly when we get more information. But we have seen the water drop overnight and great work by firefighters on the ground protecting these structures where Alex Cheney is. We've seen one home that's been destroyed by fire. John Gregory has one home destroyed and another that was heavily damaged. And we continue to watch as these firefighters are battling this blaze, and the sun is just moments away from coming up. And we expect to see more air support and just get a clearer picture of the damage and where exactly the fire is and what needs to happen in this assault that they will ramp up this morning when the sun rises. Right now, let's go to Leslie Lopez. She is focusing on those winds. Les.
Yeah, you know we are. We're taking a look at some of these very gusty conditions. The tick fire, I just want to give you the latest update. And if we can, I don't know if the chopper can hear, but if I could see maybe the nose of the fire, if there is a well-defined nose of the fire, it would give us a really good idea as to what direction the majority of those flames are moving into. We know it's going to be the northeasterly direction, but what communities would that affect? So tick fire right now, we're looking at 75 degrees through that area. We have relative humidity around 7% right now. The east-northeast winds are still coming in very strong at about 16 miles per hour. And the newest update here is 27-mile-per-hour gusts moving through that region. Now, what we'll notice today is that we're going to get this nice lull in terms of those very strong gusty winds between your lunch hour today and then also through about 5 o'clock. So the hope here is that firefighters can get a little bit of an edge on these flames during that time period. Winds right now, if you just look for the bright spots, you're going to see those winds. So this purple color here, that's 50 to 60 mile-per-hour winds. That's in the low desert community, so Palm Springs area. Let's take you back to Santa Clarita. We're seeing this color here, and this is going to be about 30 to 35 mile-per-hour winds, which we've been seeing consistently since 11 o'clock last night. So that continues on. Our forecast models are showing that some of those bright colored spots, and you're going to see the colors really diminish and get lighter here as I put this clock in motion. Right as we're heading into your lunch hour, we start to see those winds diminish, and then from that point forward through about 5 o'clock, they really calm down to, 4 mile-per-hour winds, which are very calm winds. Firefighters do get an advantage of that. Here's that nose of the fire, so you can see that the flames are moving down through that northeasterly direction, and of course all those embers around it. As we're going to continue on, unfortunately, I do have some news that indicates that for the weekend, once we get out of 5 a.m. tomorrow morning, the winds are going to pick back up again. I really don't like to see that. Humidity levels are going to stay just about the same through tomorrow, maybe a little tiny improvement, but that's about it. So through Santa Clarita, today we have those 30 to 35 mile-per-hour winds. Tomorrow they're going to pick up right about 5 a.m. again, 20 to 30 mile-per-hour winds. Humidity levels still very dry. And then unfortunately it gets worse. On Sunday, even though temperatures are coming down, humidity is improving. The winds are increasing to 30 to 40 miles per hour. And so again, it's going to be another firefight for firefighters if they just don't get a good handle on this. It is still going to be in that northeasterly to easterly direction through the next 3 days. And that red flag warning, even though it expires tonight, we will still have some fire weather threats elevated for us here in Southern California. High wind warning should expire as well by the time we're heading into your lunch hour. So again, this is really going to be the big opportunity between your lunch hour today and all the way through about 5 a.m. tomorrow for firefighters to try to get a handle. And most of that at least will be sunny, and hopefully firefighters can see and get a lot of air support from a better advantage point. Los Angeles, Orange County, 94 today. Finally, I'll let you know on Monday, we get the weather finally getting into this cooperative state where we get back some 70s, we get back some moisture, we get back some cooler temperatures, the winds quiet down. So really it's Monday that we have to look forward to in terms of this fire weather that we've been dealing with. Valley's Inland Empire, 96 today. We'll drop those temperatures down to the 70s by this time we're heading into Sunday. But again, look at those winds. They're still around 30 miles per hour. So again, Canyons, Passes, all those places still dealing with gusts. Beach communities, it'll be 91 degrees today. Look at that. Right off to the screen to my left, you're seeing that that water drop. So hopefully that was a really good drop. 70s are back by the time we're heading into Monday and Tuesday. And we're really crossing our fingers for a sea breeze on Sunday, but it just doesn't look like it's going to be enough. Mountains, 70 degrees. We'll see those 50s right about Monday. Overnight lows drop in the 20s. That's great. We can't wait till Monday. And then over into the high desert areas, we'll have 82 degrees. And then those 60s are back Monday and Tuesday. And unfortunately, you're looking at this brush here, a little bit of that is light to medium chaparral, some grasses. So we don't have, big oak trees or those huge accelerants. It doesn't matter. The terrain's there, low humidities, embers are flying around. So we're going to be hoping for the best here. Guys, over to you.
All right. Thanks much, Les. You talk about low humidity, and this is the time of day when we would have most of our humidity, but it's just not there. We continue to see the fire burning very near the 14 freeway. John Gregory is live in one of the neighborhoods where we've watched the firefight. The difficulty of it, really, John, because, it's not like it's out in the forest and they've got a very distinct fire line that they're trying to set up. It's spotting all over the place. Sometimes there will be a house burn and right next door, nothing.
Yeah, Philip, we really saw that as we were coming in here. We saw spot fires all over. And when you look at this area with Google Maps or with a map, you can see there are just a lot of open canyons in between the homes, and this fire has kind of got into all those locations. It's actually done the same thing with this home behind us, getting in to all the attic spaces and the walls, and it's just made it such a hard fight for these firefighters. The wind pushing through it now, and this thing goes on and on and on. They keep dumping water on it, and it keeps flaring up at a different location. Sadly, this is the one home they lost. We want to pan down the road, though, just to show you another home. And you know what? There's smoke coming from that home again. Geez, this one, when we first arrived, they had smoke in the walls, and they got in there and they started digging it out. But you can see we've got smoke coming out of it again. So sadly, they're going to have to get back over there and start peeling that outer layer of the house off to try and find where those embers are. But this really illustrates how stubborn these ember fires are. They get up in the attics, they smolder. The fire then makes its way into the actual walls, and it's so hard for firefighters to find it. In fact, you may not even know it's happening until you look and see the house is filling with smoke, and that may be your first indication. And by then, of course, the problem's pretty serious. So firefighters are going to get down there again. We're going to head down there again as well, just to see how extensive the firefight's going to be, and we'll update you in a moment. I'll send it back to you guys.
All right, John, thanks very much for that. And we did get information that at 9:30 we are going to have a press briefing from firefighters. So we are expecting to get more information, updated information about this fire that continues to burn out of control, 5% contained. Let's go to Scott Reif, Air 7 HD. And what a shot you have there, Scott.
Yeah, we went and got some fuel, Leslie and Philip, and we got back over the hill. And I can tell you things look much better right now than they did when we first got airborne this morning. This would be the far northeastern corner of the fire, a fire line burning up a hill towards a home that we looked at early this morning. Tilt up a little bit. We got a call when it was dark. I don't know if you remember, at 31650 Springs Canyon Road, right there, and the homeowner was still there. They saw that wall of flames, and they got fire crews and structure protection in place very quickly. I want to open up out of this shot and show you the 14 southbound off to the right of your screen. It's incredible. Those folks on the 14 there, have been stranded for hours. Once you get past Escondido Canyon Road, they're going to take you off at Agua Dulce Canyon Road. So don't even give it a thought. You don't want to be on the 14 because you're going to spend maybe several hours stranded trying to get you turned around. It's just not going to work. You can't use Soledad Canyon. Soledad Canyon is shut down as well. So I just want to give you a little perspective and show you that drive and then show you that flare-up that we saw on that hillside. And then just mention a couple things to you. When I was on the ground, I checked. We are so fire weary here. In 2016, we had the Sand Fire south of the 14, and that burned 33,000 acres and 18 homes. Then the Thomas Fire in 2017, 282,000 acres, biggest fire, I believe, in California history, 1,063 structures. And then last year, the Woolsey Fire, some 96,000 acres and 1,643 structures with 3 people killed. So, boy, just look at what we're showing you from yesterday, though. Now, I want to push in right in that area. See, the sky map is lined up for us. Now, this off Sequoia Road and Arches Lane, now that's what we watch most of the morning, and that's where John Gregory is. We'll see if we can find the home that they lost. And what a job. I don't know if you remember, if you were with us, but this whole street was lined with fire crews trying to stop that fire from spreading from this home to the other homes, because when it really started to take off, they were worried about it just hopscotching through the neighborhood, getting into the eaves of other homes and really taking off. They were able to save that. I think there might be one other home they lost on the right. There's still some active flame, and you see where the retardant was dropped yesterday, that FOS check, that probably saved a bunch of homes in this area. We'll open up and show you a wide shot as we pan to the left, and certainly right now with the winds calming down a little bit, at least for us up here at altitude they are, you can tell we don't have nearly the exposure to flame that we had earlier this morning. A lot of those hot spots fire crews have hit. Now, the super scoopers are firing up. We just left Van Nuys Airport. The tankers out of San Bernardino can get in here. The 747 is there. There's that other home off Sugarloaf Court. We feel for those folks. They lost their home. That is destroyed. Fire crews were able to keep it to just that structure, though. And if you saw that earlier this morning, you know that in and of itself was an amazing battle. But the 747s at San Bernardino, that's not too far away. Last year, I think it was in Sacramento. You got 2 DC-10s out there. You've got a lot of helicopters going to head up out of Van Nuys and hit this very hard. I want to come out of this and give you a widest shot as we can to give you a little perspective. So we're looking due west right now. There's the area that burned. If we tilt up, I want to tilt up and show you Castaic, because yesterday we had that fire burning. There's Castaic, and that area just to the left of that was on fire right off the I-5, and boy, there was really a lot of concern about that, but no smoke, nothing visible there. Let's come back down. There was a couple of hot spots right there off of Sierra Highway. But overall, Philip and Leslie, things look very, very good compared to what we saw earlier. You can tell even by this shot, the winds aren't what they were earlier. You see that smoke is sort of going straight up. It's not just being whipped. You see the trees aren't moving much. That looks like that street right there is going to be Sequoia Road, and structure protection is in place. So right now, a little lull in the winds, a real good opportunity for the aircrafts to get up, and a real good opportunity for firefighters to start to get some type of containment here. What we're seeing is encouraging.
Well, Scott, as we take a look at your shot, a couple of things come to mind. One, you can see the topography there behind those homes, which when it was dark, you couldn't see what John Gregory and Alex Cheney were talking about when they talk about the fire just racing up that hillside and how it just served as almost like a chimney. You also see the spot fires. You can see the ground crews really getting at it. But what I wanted to ask you is, at night, when it's dark and you were up flying when it was dark, there is a whole separate feeling and emotion because of the uncertainty and not knowing what you're looking at because you just can't see it. Is there also a change in attitude? I mean, when you flew up on this and you start to see, okay, now I can see exactly what I'm looking at without necessarily the technology element of it, you can see it. Do you feel a difference when you come up on this?
Well, I certainly think you do, Philip. I mean, for one thing, there's just more that you know. I mean, when you have the light, you know a lot more. We can see exactly how much of a danger there is. When it's dark and the fire is raging up a hillside, we can't tell how many homes are there. We really can't tell what type of shrubbery they have around the home that might start on fire. Once we get a little bit of daylight, we certainly are much more confident on what we're dealing with, and so are the crews. I can tell you from my perspective, flying at altitude at night is a little unnerving. Flying in the daytime is much easier, even when you're getting bounced around quite a bit. So basically what we can tell right now is that it's laid down so nicely, the topography that we can see, we can tell exactly what could be threatened. Where when we had it burning at night, we just really didn't know if it maybe hopped to another home or not. Although we did bring up the satellite view, and boy, at night, that satellite view from Air 7 from the sky map is just phenomenal, because it did show us some of the terrain, and that really gave us an idea, especially when we looked at this house and the other one, which house was lost. But I can tell you, it's amazing that only 2 homes were lost here. Excuse me, it's quite a testament to the firefighters, and then also what I'm noticing compared to when we left and it was still dark to get fuel is the wind has died down, and that certainly is going to help things immensely.
And Scott, we're also noticing as you panned out to the upper right-hand side of the screen, it looks like a line of a red Phos-Chek right on top of those homes.
Yeah, not only did they do that here, if you remember, if you saw what was going on at the Castaic fire, they laid the Phos-Chek right down on top of some of those homes, and that saved them as well. Now, they can't do that at night. The tankers that come through here, they do not have the ability to fly at night. But these little spot fires now are fewer and farther between, and you see structure protection in place. They're not really worried about that. There's a lot of green ice plant next to that one home. Right now, besides the home that's smoldering there, that's going to be the one on Sequoia Road in Archer Lane. And then we have the other one, I think, on Sequoia. That's where Alex Cheney was earlier. That's going to be, I believe, coming up here in a moment, right there at the end of that cul-de-sac. If we push in, from what we could tell in this immediate area, those are the only 2 homes that were lost overnight. I think yesterday, if you saw the pictures right after this started, all of that smoke was extremely ominous. So things, once again, pretty encouraging right now.
Well, as you zoom in on that house, Scott, and you talk of Alex Cheney, we're going to go right down to the ground because Alex Cheney is at that scene, and he has a firefighter that he's going to be able to talk to about what they face right now. Alex?
Yeah, Philip Leslie, good morning. This is Captain Robert Wellesby from the Ventura County Fire. We've been going live from this house all morning. Is this house a complete loss at this point?
At this point, this is a complete loss.
So what's happening right now?
Well, right now we're in the overhaul phase. We want to make sure that we get all the hot spots. We certainly don't want any rekindles to start this back up and pose another threat to the neighboring homes. So the neighboring homes are still a concern to all of us. You're going to see crews here probably throughout the day ensuring there are no rekindles.
And so you're not sending anybody inside of the house right now?
That's correct. At this point, it's too dangerous to send anyone inside. The structural integrity has definitely been compromised. At this point, it's a complete loss, and we're going to go ahead and surround it and drown it from the outside.
And I think what a lot of people may be thinking right now is the white foam on the ground. Kind of tell me about why is it that you add foam to the water?
So we add foam to the water to help it absorb into all the building materials a lot easier. It's actually a better agent to extinguish any fire and to prevent further rekindles.
And so how important are those helicopter drops when they come through to put out the fires, not just the ground crews, but also air support as well?
So obviously it's a team effort. It's boots on the ground. It's our aerial units, and those guys are amazing. They're very, very talented. They're able to prejudge the winds, drop ahead of the fire, knowing that the wind is going to carry the water to where the fire needs to be. Pinpoint drops. Really, it's a team effort, and we appreciate all of their support as well.
So Ventura County Fire, you said you brought about 50 guys out here who have been working since about 2 o'clock yesterday.
Yeah, we got launched immediate need 2 o'clock from the Simi Valley area. Went right to work when we got here, performing structure defense. Today we were assigned to this cul-de-sac, and we've been here since about 2 in the morning.
Wow, incredible stuff. Well, Robert, thank you so much. So this house now a complete loss that we've been taking a look at all morning long. Tough situation here. Philip and Leslie.
Okay, Alex, if you could I'm just curious if the firefighter is still with us there. Is he more optimistic now with the conditions changing? I mean, is his attitude changing at all from, even 5 hours ago?
Has your optimism changed? Or do you feel better about the conditions heading into the rest of the day from what you've seen?
As long as the winds are blowing this fast and this strong, I don't have a whole lot of optimism at this point. Obviously, as we get more crews into the area, that's obviously a help, but the winds make everything super unpredictable. I mean, you can have an area that seems like it's cold, it's out, and all it takes is one little ember to start another house on fire. So obviously that's our main concern right now. We need Mother Nature to cooperate with us. As soon as the winds die down and the relative humidities go up, then we're going to probably get a little bit more optimistic. But right now we're in a state of readiness for whatever tends to rekindle or start new, and we want to pounce on that as fast as we can.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Captain. All right, that's the situation out here. Back to you, Philip and Leslie.
All right. Alex, thanks. One word that firefighters don't like to hear is alignment. When you have fuel, topography, and wind all working together, because when it goes in the same direction, it just destroys anything in its path. So I think that's kind of what we were talking about there. We don't like that type of alignment.
Right. Dangerous combination and optimistic, not quite yet with all those winds, as he mentioned.
Okay. Well, right now it is 7 o'clock, and we are in continuous live team coverage of the tick fire burning in Santa Clarita. You might be expecting to watch Good Morning America right now, but we are going to stay on the air because of the number of people affected and how this is impacting so much of Southern California. This fire officially has burned about 4,000 acres, and it's only 5% contained.
Overnight, this fire jumped the 14 freeway, which is shut down right now in both directions between Golden Valley and Escondido Canyon. And we are seeing more and more traffic just backed up on that freeway. At least 6 homes were burned during the fire yesterday, and this morning we have seen more homes damaged by the fire.
And it's not just the commute on the 14. It's also Metro, because they had to stop the train, the Antelope Valley train up in Lancaster, and then they can't get buses around because of the 14 freeway closure. New evacuations were ordered this morning for the Sand Canyon area from the Antelope Valley Freeway to Plaza Rita Canyon Road in Santa Clarita. Large area south of the 14 freeway. Also the area east of Rolling Hills Avenue and north of Diver Street in Canyon Country. So that large swath of area also adds to the tens of thousands of people who were told to leave yesterday.
And dozens of schools and 2 colleges are also closed because of the smoke and extreme fire danger that includes all LAUSD schools in the San Fernando Valley, as well as all 4 Malibu schools in Santa Monica, Malibu USD.
Let's go over to Brandy, and she has more from what's on our website, where you can find a lot of the details as far as school closures. I mean, you're talking about the San Fernando Valley being affected with this school closures.
You're talking, that's LAUSD. That's right, Philip and Leslie. Not only are we updating you here right now, but on our website constantly, minute by minute, we've just added an interactive map that's going to actually show you all of the fires that we're following, including the fire danger that continues throughout Southern California. The tick fire here is the main one up in Santa Clarita, but you may remember yesterday that fire in the Sepulveda Basin sparked. We're monitoring that situation as well. It's 80% contained. And the old water fire that sparked in San Bernardino yesterday, fire crews are still there right now. That fire only 30% contained. So these are the current fires. It's an interactive map that you can use. And also, this is the region that could still be impacted by power outages today with the fire concerns. The areas of red you see here in Santa Clarita, this is where the tick fire is again, those are outages. The red areas are out. The orange, potential, San Bernardino area. You still have a lot of areas that could see more power outages today. As I go south past Riverside, you're pretty much in the clear there. But when you get down to Lake Elsinore area, we've updated the map. There's still potential for power outages there. Moving west into Orange County, just east of Santa Ana, there's actually power outages there. And as we go north, there's a big swath of Ventura County. We're also monitoring for you today. Red outages north of Camarillo. In the orange, again, warnings in the area. So just a potential here. The fire danger still exists while we monitor 4 fires in Southern California this morning. There's concerns others could spark amid these conditions. Back over to you.
All right, Brandy, thank you very much for that. 7:03 right now. Let's go back out to John Gregory live in the, I'm sorry, I can't remember that name of that street. Arches Street. John.
We're on Sequoia now, Leslie. We moved down a couple doors from that home that was a complete loss, and This was a house we saw early this morning where they had some embers burning inside the wall, and they peeled off the outer layers, and we thought they had it out. And literally 30 minutes ago, we looked over and there was smoke coming out of this home again in the eaves of the first floor, but also the second floor. So there is a lot of fire burning in there, and it's probably been smoldering all morning long. It's just another example of how difficult these ember fires can be. Keep in mind, this is a new home. These are all new homes. They have all the modern safety features you'd expect with a new home. The eaves are stuccoed to prevent fire from hitting or making contact with wood. And despite all of that, these embers still get into these tight spaces. And look at what it does. It's really got to be frustrating for these firefighters. They thought they had this out literally an hour and a half, 2 hours ago. It all looked like it was out, but then again, it started picking up, started smoldering again, and the fight is back on, and the wind certainly can't be helping. But boy, it really illustrates the problem they're dealing with and how it really drains resources. They never can really leave one of these homes that starts like this until they're completely sure it's out. So it's got to be difficult. We did lose one home, 2 doors up. You can actually see the smoke billowing from that home still. But now the effort is underway to save this home here. I mean, we think they're going to. They've got a lot of resources on hand, and they're on top of it. But it's just this nagging problem of these embers getting down into places that you wouldn't think they could get into. And the only time you find out about it is when you start to see smoke, and that's what they're dealing with. I will say the winds feel like they've backed off just a little bit, which, you know, I don't know if it's just this spot we're in, but it's something to keep in mind, and certainly good news for firefighters here. We're live in Canyon Country. John Gregory, ABC7 Eyewitness News. Philip, Leslie, I'll send it back to you.
Okay, John, it's not just your spot, because Scott Reif was talking about how he felt like the winds had died down. But, you know, as we bring Scott in, one of the things I noticed, Scott, was while you might have a couple of homes that are a total loss, you have a lot of homes that have damage. You could see the damage in Alex Cheney's shot, John Gregory's shot, because the firefighters were in place and they had to rip open part of the houses, but they've gotten those fires out in many spots. So there's a lot of homes that are damaged, several homes completely lost.
Yeah, when I look at that neighborhood, I look at it and I go, but my goodness, there's a lot of homes that were saved. I mean, what we saw this morning and yesterday was so frightening. Now, basically, things look fantastic. The wind has died down. I'll echo what John said. That's what we're seeing. You see firefighters on that line there, on that fire road, and as we open up a little bit, that is the worst of what we're seeing right now. Now, we're hearing that they may open up one lane on the 14 northbound. That's on the bottom of your screen. If you were with us this morning, fire just raged up that hillside towards the 14, excuse me, and they had to shut it down. But as we tilt up and open up, I want to give you some perspective on how the fire has laid down. That's the area that is burned, that 4,000 acres. It did cross the 14. Top of your screen up there is Sand Canyon, past Soledad Canyon. But you can see the area that burned, but you can also see how nicely it is laid down over the last 45 minutes or so. And you can see that we don't have much exposure to any structures any longer. The super scoopers are going to make the drops. I still think the tankers will come in and put the faucet check around it so it doesn't rekindle. But what we're seeing right now is extremely encouraging. They may open up one lane northbound on the 14, and I think from what we're seeing right now, if we don't see this thing start to take off again, or any hot spots that pick up, I think they may open the 14 southbound. And boy, that would be so nice for traffic, because that South 14 still has hundreds of cars that are just stranded. And you can see there are hot spots. We still have some brush burning along the 14, but we may get the northbound lanes open. And I want to open up this shot again for you and come a little bit wide and give you an idea, if off to the right side of your screen. If you saw it yesterday when it took off, you couldn't even see those homes on the top right portion of your screen, up on the very top right. You couldn't see those homes because of all the black smoke that was pouring down over that area. Most of those homes were saved. Right now, you could tell we just have a kindling of what was light brush. If they would have been nestled up in heavy brush, say like what we have in Malibu, it would have been really difficult to save those homes. But because we've got light brush for the most part, the fire did come up very quickly through the grass and the light brush towards the homes, but then it pretty much stopped, and firefighters were able to save most of the houses. There you go. You see the Phos-Check on there, see a county helicopter just surveying everything, and the super scoopers we were told would be airborne around 7. We expect them to make a drop in here at any moment, but certainly encouraging. We feel for those folks who lost their home. I know last year we were evacuated. We were fortunate in the Woolsey fire. We were out for several days when the fire burned right up to our homes. But you got to feel for somebody who's lost their homes. When I look at this, though, I think what a great job by fire crews to save all these other homes, because of the hundreds of homes in here, we only see a couple that were lost.
Scott, you know one thing, not only do we feel for the people who've lost that home, one of the things that's remarkable to me when we start to see people go back into their neighborhoods is the guilt. Oddly enough, the guilt by so many people who are friends of those who lost their home, and they realize how lucky they were, how fortunate they are, but then they're racked with guilt because somehow they were fortunate enough to have their homes survive.
Yeah, and it's just fate, you know, it's just chance, whether it's going to be your home or not. It doesn't seem to have any rhyme or reason to it. It's not the brush around your home. It's not the brush clearance in many cases. All of these have about the same brush clearance. It just seems to be unlucky that those two homes are the ones that we see on Sequoia here in Arches Lane that were lost, and it certainly could have been much, much worse. Another thing is yesterday afternoon, I mean, it was just frightening if you saw the shots. Castaic was burning. They had fire burning right up to the side of homes. They had people outside, residents trying to fight the fire with their garden hoses. Then you had the Sepulveda Basin, and even though no structures were threatened, that Sepulveda Basin erupted, and there was so much smoke coming off of that it looked like it was a war zone with all the smoke that we had laying down in the San Fernando Valley. We don't have that today. It's very calm out here. The winds have died down. The feeling right now is one of a sense of security, I would say. If you're watching from a friend's home, if you were evacuated and you're looking at these shots, sadly, the two homes we're showing you, and there are others have been lost. But right now, unless we have something significant that changes, there are no homes right now besides those that are really in jeopardy of being lost.
Scott, you just used the word I guess I probably should have used a moment ago. And as I bring Leslie Lopez in, I want to point out what Scott said versus what I thought optimistic. But I love Scott's choice of encouraging, because there's too much that can still happen with the winds, Leslie. You've been telling us about it all morning. The humidity's low, the winds, everything is still there. And the firefighter was saying he's not optimistic, but it is encouraging.
Right. You know, perfect. Yes, exactly right. The reason why we're seeing this little lull in wind speed, we are seeing just the Santa Ana start to get that decline, and we're going to continue to see a decline in wind speed throughout the rest of today. But again, the worst of the winds should start to be behind us as we're progressing farther into the day. And it's just so nice to see the sun come up and we can kind of get a really good picture of what's happening out there. We do see spot fires. They're, you know, all over the place here, but it's not nearly as bad as it looked when it was at night. So now we're getting a clearer picture and hoping, that's another one, hoping for the best here. We're going to see some northeast winds still continue on. So I'm going to tell you that as we get farther into the next 24, 36, 48 hours, we do have some winds that will return. So again, it's really important that when these winds quiet down like they're starting to do now, especially into the afternoon, that firefighters, and they're doing such a good job, get a handle of what they can with this fire. The terrain is a factor, but you'll notice that we don't see that heavy brush or chaparral through this lens over here. You can see that we don't have those big oak trees, so accelerants aren't nearly as bad as they could be. We still have very low humidities, moving winds through that Santa Clarita region as we continue on, and the red flag warning, here's another piece of good news, should expire tonight at 10 p.m. So there are a couple of components that we're anticipating that should help. The high wind warning, that's another one. That'll expire at noon today. And then we get to see, at least for this particular area with the tick fire, we were talking about 30 to 35 mile per hour gusts since 11 o'clock last night. Well, the gusts have been steadily decreasing, and now it's about 25 miles per hour with sustained winds in that region about 17 miles per hour. So that's also some nice news and nice little attributes with this fire. fire weather to see here. Noticing that the color of red through Santa Clarita has been shrinking over the last couple of hours. Let's get rid of that. And it looks like we are going to get rid of that. By the time I'm going to put this clock in motion here, especially by the time we're heading into your lunch hour, you'll notice that the diminishing winds from 10, well, I would say about noon to about 5 o'clock today should really decline. So you're going to see that all go away. And then really the firefighters, here's the hours in which they have to really have Mother Nature on their side. Between noon today and 5 a.m. tomorrow, those winds should really subside very well. Here's the problem. By the time we're heading into 5 a.m. tomorrow onward into Sunday, we do have more winds returning to that particular area. And so, again, the firefight could increase again. Flare-ups wouldn't be out of the question, but we're just really hoping for the best once we get into this afternoon. 8% relative humidity. That's very dry. That means that whenever we have those embers flying around, they can quickly ignite the grass around. And unfortunately, we don't want to see that. We didn't recover very well overnight. We like to see recovery when the sun goes down. We usually start to get a lot more moisture. This isn't the case with Santa Ana's, and it won't be the case today or tomorrow. So I want to get you that forecast for the next 3 days, because this is critical in terms of this particular fire, the tick fire. We have 94 degrees today. Northeast winds will continue through Saturday. We have relative humidity that will stay low through about Saturday. And then we also have gusts that'll be about 30 to 35 today. But again, we know that they're going to calm down later on this afternoon. They'll increase again tomorrow at 5 a.m. to 20 to 30. And then unfortunately, I have to show you this. On Sunday, they increase even farther to about 30 to 40 mile per hour winds. And it looks like that humidity, even though it gets a little bit better, is just not quite enough. We really like to see a relative humidity in the 80s to 100%. So this is Santa Ana. That's what we're dealing with here. Very dry conditions. Los Angeles and Orange County, we're going to get back. I want to say the big day to look forward to will be Monday. So Monday, we get back to normal. That's the return of relative humidity levels at around 80%. We get to see a little bit more morning cloud coverage, low temperatures, and the winds are quiet. So Monday onward, we should get a little bit more excited about the weather pattern that's ahead. But unfortunately, it's these 3 days that we have the winds. In addition to that, we're hoping for maybe a little bit of rain next week. It's a very much, we're crossing our fingers. We're not getting too excited, but there could be a little bit of rain in the forecast next week. So we'll keep you updated. 96 degrees in the Valley's Inland Empire. And then we'll see those 80s return on Thursday, but lots of 70s in between there. And then for the beach communities, I know it's going to be hotter today. It was really hot yesterday, very dry along the coast too. 91. 70s are back, though, tomorrow. And then for the mountain communities, we do have some cool weather coming back. 55 degrees on Monday, overnight lows in the low 20s. So we'll get there, but it's just going to take a little time. And then finally, for the high desert spots, 82. We'll see those 60s return on Monday. All right, guys, back over your way.
All right, Les, thanks very much. Now, Alex Cheney has watched this firefight from the ground and sadly watched someone's home just be destroyed. Alex, what's the very latest?
Yeah, good morning. You know, in the light of day, as Southern California is waking up this morning, unfortunately, this is a reality for some folks out there. In the light of day, we're really now able to get a better look at exactly the damage at this home. I talked to firefighters a moment ago. This home is a complete loss because of this fire. So this is a reality this morning for many of those in Southern California. Some incredible stuff. The entire second floor of this home is just gone because of this fire. Firefighters have been doing a great job to mop it up to make sure none of the surrounding homes were impacted, but this is a reality this morning for many. Philip and Leslie.
Okay, Alex, thank you very much. From Alex's shot, let's go to Scott Rive. He's in Air 7 HD. And Scott, from that, one of the things you've always said, when a house fire gets going in these conditions, there's just so much fuel associated with it. The embers can go everywhere and just cause all kinds of problems.
Yeah, especially when the roof collapses. I mean, you've seen that even when it wasn't a brush fire that spread to homes. They can spread so quickly. But, you know, this is the hard work. It's going to put it out. And the camp crews surrounding little spot fires on this area, which is to the north of the 14, and it's south of Agua Dulce Canyon Road, south of Agua Dulce. I want to show you moments ago, one of the things we have now that we did not have, some video we're going to go to, when it was dark, is some of the county fire helicopters that can drop water. And you can see there's a camp crew. They call in. We got a little hot spot, and they drop some water on it. it, and that pretty much douses that hot spot that they had there. We come back out to our live shot, and what you're seeing is what would be called just light brush. It's not medium brush, and thank goodness it's not heavy brush, and that's really one of the reasons I think they're going to start to get a big handle on this fire very quickly. We'll open up out of this shot and just give you some perspective of everything of this 4,000-acre tick fire. As we open up, you can see this is all just sort of light brush. When it took off yesterday, it erupted. It was like kindling. That's why we had so much smoke. And it burned right up towards some of the homes that you see on the top of your screen. But right now it is laid down so nicely, and there's not much to start up besides one of the structures actually rekindling. And in that case, you got a lot of structure protection there. So it's encouraging, not only that, but it looks really good. There's another drop. The super scoopers are on their way, and I'm really hopeful that they will be able to start to get some containment on this. And with the fact that the winds are dying down, and then that great possibility of next week we might get some rain, maybe we'll get away here without any further loss of structures. And I haven't heard, if you have, how the fire started. I haven't heard of any injuries. We certainly hope no one was hurt. But right now things are real encouraging, and it looks like they're really starting to get around this fire and maybe make some progress towards some containment.
Well, Scott, thank you very much. We haven't heard yet of a cause of this fire, but we are expecting that 9:30 press conference. Maybe we'll get some additional information about that then. Right now, we're going to go on over to Brandy Hitt. She's got information on the dozens of schools that are closed.
Yeah, that's right. Good morning. You know, this is the time parents would be getting their kids ready for school, about to start maybe about an hour in Santa Clarita. That's not the case today. On our website, ABC7.com, we have a full list posted for you here. And this is part of the list. William S. Hart District schools that are going to be closed. We're talking about the main high schools in Santa Clarita: Canyon, Bowman, Castaic, Golden Valley, Hart, also Valencia, West Ranch, Saugus. The junior highs are listed. Also the Newhall School District. All schools are closed. Many of you probably got that phone alert if you live up there yesterday that they were going to be shutting that down. Saugus Union Elementary School District, they're closed today. Castaic, where we saw another fire breakout yesterday, burning homes. Those schools are closed. COC, also Moore Park College. Cal Arts is closed, along with the Department of Catholic Schools for the Archdiocese of Los Angeles. Now, I'm going to scroll back up this list because this is big here. Also, San Fernando Valley, all the schools that are part of LA Unified, they are also closed today, including Roscommare, Topanga, Valley View, Wonderland Elementary, Community. And the reason being, also, obviously, there's fire risk throughout the area, but air quality is so bad in so many of the regions. As we go west to Malibu, Ventura County, you're seeing school closures as well. Fillmore Unified, Magoo's School District, all closed. So unfortunately, it's going to happen today. We'll keep you posted on ABC7.com if any more closures are added. Back over to you.
Okay, thanks much. Now, the 14 freeway, when you're trying to use the 14 freeway to get down into L.A. for work, I mean, you've just got a mess because that freeway's been closed all night. Many people maybe were surprised by that. Leo Stallworth was just trying to get into the fire coverage and was stuck for over 2 hours this morning. He joins us now. Leo, there's just not a very easy way to get around this, and it doesn't appear as if it's getting any better.
Philip, it's just ugly, man. That's all. I mean, that's the word. It's just ugly. And the other word, a lot of folks surprised. So these are frustrated commuters here. They're being diverted off of the freeway here at the Agua Dulce off-ramp here in the southbound lanes of the 14 freeway. This is where they're having to get off the freeway in the southbound lanes. They're being diverted back to the other side into the northbound lanes where they're having to probably go back home. And Philip, you mentioned that a lot of these folks out here are probably surprised. We hear some people screaming, not being ugly, but just screaming at us saying, what is going on? So you're right. Some of these folks have gotten into traffic early this morning thinking they're going to head off to work, and boom, they're being diverted off of the freeway after sitting in traffic like we did earlier this morning for at least a couple of hours. I'm talking about just completely bogged down for quite a while. And Scott Reif showed some of that earlier this morning. You and Leslie have been talking about it. It's just a mess. So folks, if you don't have to get out here, well, you know what? Even if you have to get out here, don't. You're not going to go anywhere. You're going to be turned around and sent back home. So just stay home. I'll send it back to you folks.
All right. Good information, Leo. We can certainly understand their frustration. Let's go to Scott Reif, Air 7 HD, for a picture. The sun is up and we can see a lot more, Scott.
Yeah, this is about where the fire started yesterday. I want to open up a little bit. I think SkyMap 7 will show us Tick Canyon Road. That's why it's the Tick fire. And we're just speculating, because we're looking at basically the furthest north spot there, that's about where the fire started, and it slowly moves south. Now, push in right there, if you would, right in the middle of your screen. There's a couple of structures that were lost. I believe we had a home that we saw that was lost up here on the hillside. And some of these areas were hit pretty hard. You can see that yellow phosgenic. In this case, it was laid down in this area. The glow from the sun making it look a little different. There it looks like a structure that was lost, maybe on that little road there. And most of these, what we're seeing in here, were homes or businesses or yards, truck yards, where they had abandoned cars that were burned. And this is very close to the origin of the fire, we believe. But overall, our perspective is a good one. You know, we see little to no flame any longer. There's been a report that they may open up the 14 northbound. As soon as we confirm that, we will let you know. But from what I can tell, I'm not seeing any civilian traffic on the northbound side of the 14. But you can tell that entire area that did burn earlier is pretty much smoldering right now. And let's put you into Sequoia Road right there in the center of your screen there, Tad. We can see that home that did burn. I think that's where John is, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, that's the one I believe that John was at. And boy, so much concern this morning when it was dark, and that started to take off, that it was going to spread to other homes, and a fantastic job that it didn't. But you could tell how much structure protection is in place. So the 14 southbound, Leo mentioned that. It's still backed up several miles of folks just not moving. You don't want to try and come south on any street. Soledad, don't think about it. Down to Plaza Rita, don't think about it. The 14, of course, don't do it, because you could get stranded, and it could be hours before you even get turned around.
Well, Scott, before we leave your picture, if you could just pan just a little to the left. It's interesting. The home in the center of the screen is the one completely gone, but that one has a lot of work being underway there with firefighters on the roof. So we talked about that earlier, about homes being damaged versus destroyed. So thanks for zooming in on that. I just wanted to kind of take a peek. Scott, let's go to John Gregory now, who is on the ground. And, John, you've seen it as well. You know, destroyed versus damaged. I mean, there's a lot of damage.
Yeah, and that one home behind me, Philip, appears to be completely gutted. It has been burning all morning long. They've been hitting it with water all morning long, and it just refuses to go out, all because the winds keep driving that fire inside the structure. I also want to quickly show you the building over here, 2 doors down. This is where they got in. They got some embers in the walls, and they really had to peel the roof off and peel the walls off to get in at it. I don't see any smoke now. That's certainly a good sign. But, you know, we thought this fire was out a couple hours ago, and it flared back up. So it's just very, very difficult. It's got to be very frustrating for the firefighters, certainly for the homeowners to see this happening in their neighborhood. Again, we do have one home lost and one home damaged. We are live in Canyon Country. John Gregory, ABC7 Eyewitness News. Philip Leslie, I'll send it back to you.
Okay. John, thanks very much for that. Let's go on over to Leslie Lopez and talk about these winds. Les.
The winds will quiet down a little bit later on today. We had a little bit of a decrease in the wind velocities between the hours of 5 a.m. till about now, and that's been pretty steady. So instead of those 30 to 35 mile per hour gusts, we've been seeing pretty consistently about 20 to 25. So we have a little decrease there. We have fire weather, and I just wanted to put you into the future a little bit here. You'll notice that these bright colors start to diminish by the time we're heading into your lunch hour and about 5 o'clock this evening. We have a really nice lull in wind speeds between about noon onward throughout tonight. But unfortunately, it's going to be tomorrow morning at 5 a.m. that the winds pick right back up again. So we're concerned with that. Now, temperatures this morning are into the 70s for Santa Clarita. We've been seeing lots of 70s. And earlier this morning, we saw very low humidity levels. So through that community, we have all the ingredients, unfortunately. And, you know, when I was looking at the big picture map of all the relative humidity levels, Santa Clarita and Ontario Ontario are two of the spots that have been dealing with incredibly low humidity levels all night long. So 7% relative humidity continues on this morning. We have east-northeast winds at about 13 right now, and those gusts of about 25 miles per hour. So that is going to stay the case. It looks like through about your lunch hour. So this forecast model, I'm just going to keep you pointed here, but if you are in Riverside, you can, or Santa Ana, you can look at your community, but particularly Santa Clarita, moving this forward, I'm going to stop it at 10 a.m. We're still around that 20 to 25 mile per hour gust range. We continue forward, and then by about 3 o'clock, we're down to 12 mile per hour winds. We continue on 5 o'clock in the afternoon into the evening. Our winds diminish really significantly, and that's great news for those next several hours. So really, we'll be watching out for that. All right, Santa Clarita, there you are, 8% relative humidity, really dry. Gorman as well. Ontario, you're not much better, about 10%, and then 6% out towards Banning. So very, very dry and low relative humidities. That just means ignition can happen very quickly on a day like today. And as we continue through the weekend, we're talking about this next round of wind. I want to put you towards tomorrow. Tomorrow, 5 a.m., the winds will pick up to about 20 to 30 miles per hour from your morning start to about 5 a.m., almost all throughout the entire day. And temperatures, even though they decrease a little bit, it's not much of a help. Relative humidity stays very dry. And then on Sunday, we drop our temperatures down to 77. That's nice. And humidity comes back just a little bit, but 26% relative humidity is still really dry. We want it back up into the 80s or 100%. And then those east winds, 25, but then I don't like this. This is where we're going to see some problems. Gusts of about 30 to 40. So hopefully no flare-ups because of those winds that are coming in. All right, I hope you have a wonderful weekend. We have something to look forward to. Monday on into the next few days will get cooler, bring back some moisture, bring back that humidity, and that would be fantastic news, guys. Over to you.
Okay. Les, thanks. And you can see the Super Scoopers up and flying. We knew that was going to happen with sunrise, and that is just a comforting sight to see. Now, it is almost 7:30. We've been in continuous coverage on the tick fire since about 3:30 this morning. Now, we're going to take you back to Good Morning America, but before we do, we also want to remind you, we're going to update you on things and right now, but if anything changes, we'll also come back as well. But the tick fire has burned 4,300 acres. It's said to be 5% contained, and the 14 freeway is shut down right now in both directions between Golden Valley and Agua Dulce, with a handful of homes already have been destroyed and damaged by the fire.
And tens of thousands of people are under mandatory evacuation orders right now. Dozens of schools are closed, and we have complete coverage throughout the day. We will be breaking into programming if the fire flares up and for news conferences. In the meantime, get complete coverage of the fire on our free ABC7 Los Angeles app and on our website, abc7.com.
Have a great morning, and remember, anytime this situation changes, we will be back on the air for you.